Okay, then I guess we'll call the meeting to order. You're gonna recognize everybody that's there, Lindsay? You're gonna just check who's all at the meeting?
I've got them all marked down already. I've been marking them down as they come.
Okay, thanks. Then we'll go to Mr. Severson for some thank yous. If he wants to touch base on those.
All right. First of all, there's a thank you to everyone for their continued support during this extremely difficult emotional time. This has been a very successful due to the BCN's amazing staff, our wonderful student body, our extremely supportive parents, and our great Board of Education, and also a great leadership team. So thank you to everybody for that. And then also one more congratulations. I just received notice that Tina Bren was announced as the Region 5 Speech Coach of the Year this year. So a huge congratulations to Tina.
Good job, Tina.
Good job. Okay. Then we'll move to approval of agenda. Is there anything anybody wants to add to the agenda?
I do have one.
Okay.
And that would be the pledge certification of deposit. So it'd be pledgee certification of deposit made with Pledger.
Put on mute. Anything else anybody has? I'd like to add school meals if we could talk a little about that under I.
That was going to be talked about in our plan, but we can add it.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? If not, we need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second to
I'll
Chad?
second.
Rob? You want to do a roll call, Lindsay, or just all thumbs up? We can just motion, or how would that work?
I can't see some, so.
Okay, well then read her through.
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Michelle. Michelle, you're still muted.
I don't know who muted me. Yes,
Feedback
is the answer.
to everyone, so I'll just ask that you guys mute yourself when you're not speaking so we don't get feedback.
Okay. There we go. So yes.
Okay. Rob,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett,
Did you get that?
was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that's approved. Then we'll move the consent agenda, which covers our minutes, bills, and financial reports. Anybody have any questions on those?
Just that under the approval or the consent agenda would be where that pledge comes in.
Lindsay, I do have a question about a bill. Under food supplies, there was $12,520 spent. Was that just for the first half of the month?
I
can give you the account number if that helps.
Yeah, give me a second here.
Okay. Sorry, she probably just called you.
Are you looking at the bills? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, it's under, I don't know which set of numbers you use when you look at the account number or the line item. It's
Okay, so you're looking at like the expenditure report, I'm assuming?
It's horrible. I pulled it out and I don't remember which report I pulled it out of.
Okay.
I must have pulled it out of general fund expenditure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It should be in, it actually should be in your list, I would think. It was 12,520.
Let me find it. Sorry.
No, I should have called you.
Yeah, the food bill. Sorry, I've got so many stacks right now. I don't know what I'm looking at. So I have the total bills, I think, for food service this month is $9,279.43 is the total actual bills.
Huh, wonder what I was looking at.
Because if it was something off of the expenditure report and it was associated with an actual account number, that would likely be the total spent for the budget period.
Okay, that could be.
But if you find it and want to ask, just let me know.
Okay.
Mr. Severson, what did you need to tell us about the pledge certification? If you want to add that.
Lindsay got that in the mail, so I'll have her address it. She got it from Bank Forward.
So I just got, they send out, I guess, a notice of deposits made with the pledger. And basically it just states that on the 31st date of March, the pledgee has on deposit with Bank Forward a sum of $3,929,336.18 as of the date set out above. I don't know, I guess I'm just supposed to compare that to the bank statement, and it reconciles out and matches. So I don't know if there's questions on it or there's something further I need to do with it, but I know that it needs to be approved.
Okay. So we'll get that probably, you get that monthly then, Lindsay?
I don't know how often it comes.
Okay.
I think it's only been on the agendas in April, I think, but I don't know if it's something that comes quarterly or not. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Well, I think, go ahead, Mike.
I think usually the one's on the agenda is usually in the April meeting. So, and that's when I'd asked Lindsay about it before, and she hadn't got anything yet. So we took it off and then we added it when she got that. So I believe it's every April that we have to do this.
Did that change when we changed the way that sweep went at the bank when we, instead of doing the pledge of assets?
On here, it lists the 3 ICS accounts that we have, and then all of the accounts that we have at Bank Forward, and then it gives us our total account balance of all of those accounts. And those amounts are always off slightly by the interest amounts because they process on one set of statements, the ICS account statements, but they don't actually process the bank account statements. So that would be the only difference in the amounts, are the interest amounts,
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
So does anybody have any other questions on the pledge, minutes, bills, or the financial report? If not, we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Lori,
I will I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
By Rob, is there a second?
I'll second.
Lee? Give her a roll, Lindsay.
Mike,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Rob,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, those are approved. We'll move to committee reports. President's report, I have none. Career and tech, I see Mr. Bopes online. So I would like him to, if he would be interested in giving an update what our kids are doing up at, our students are doing at the vocational center and kind of how things are working up there. If you'd like, Mr. Bope.
You bet. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate the opportunity. When I heard you're doing a Zoom meeting, it's just as easy to jump on than give Mike a bunch of notes to share with you. So I apologize for all this mess. I took one day off all year to go fishing in Canada, and it happened to be Friday, March 13th. And when I come back across the border, we know what happened. We are all of a sudden we can't go to school anymore. So Monday, March 16th, I met with Valley City Public Schools. I got called into what they call their DIRT team meetings. So DIRT team is their district emergency response team. Kind of invited myself to that meeting so that I was on the same page with them. That's where majority of our students come from. So I wanted to know at least what their plans were, but then was able to piggyback kind of off what they were all working on and share my input there. That morning I had called the whole staff and said, hey, governor said stay home this week, so we'll make up a plan and I'll let you know. I called them back 2 hours later and said, I need you all back here on Tuesday so that we can start planning for distance learning. So they all came in. We spent the rest of that day formulating our plan. Each staff member decided what platform they were going to use to deliver distance learning. Some are using Edmodo, some are using Google Classrooms, some are using Microsoft Teams, and other ones decided they were best making videos and putting them on YouTube for their students to access. As you know, a lot of our classes are hands-on. That's why our students take them. They've learned throughout the years that they learn best hands-on, and all of a sudden we were thrusting them into a virtual platform. So somebody said it online. I think it was basically we were trying to Apollo 13 this in under a week, trying to figure out how we were going to do this. So the staff of the center were excellent. Some of them have been teaching 20, 25 years, never once dreamt about trying to do it over the internet or on an online platform, and they never batted an eye at it. Everybody understood that's what was best for kids, so that's what we're going to do. So we spent Wednesday getting ready for classes the next Tuesdays when we had class. Thursday, we brought all the students in. We screened them at the door, made sure they sanitized, asked them if they traveled outside of the area at all, and then had them get all of their personal belongings and any resources they might need to be personalized learning. Not personalized learning, sorry, distance learning. So we only had one time where we had more than 10 there at a time. I asked one gentleman and his son to stay outside until a few came out, and then we got them rolling. We had about 70 total come in that day. We issued laptops for those students that needed specialized software. Like some of our graphics communications classes uses CorelDRAW. That's not something you can access for free on the internet. So the best way to get that to them was to send home one of our laptops with them. And actually we spent, most of the day Wednesday trying to get laptops that weren't being utilized by a student personally ready to go out the door, and we were able to get 23 laptops that we offered to our member schools if they were short on devices that we could issue from our center to help support the efforts that they were making on their end to do distance learning. So we've been doing weekly full staff Zoom meetings once a week to talk about what's going well, what's not going well, how they've been able to contact their students. We started out on that Tuesday sending emails to each student telling them how each class was to be delivered. We followed up with phone calls the next day if we hadn't heard back from them. Then we started calling parents, emailing parents, and we've created a list, a shared Google Doc of who we got a hold of, when and how, so that we could report that out if anybody had any questions on, how long it's been since we've heard from so-and-so. And I've been contacting some of your administration, when we've had trouble getting hold of a certain person for whatever reason, to see if they had, other methods of getting a hold of them so that we could get that content pushed out to them. So staff have been knocking it out of park. Like I said, I got to show you if it's okay. Well, Mr. McFadgen, you guys would know him. Here's one of his videos that he was able to make for kids recently. Let's see if I can screen share here. And there we go. Let me know if you can't hear that or see that. I'll get it rolling here.
Some transmission issues, and kind of goes along with that thing that was shown yesterday. The parts that were bad were exactly what that guy had on his four-wheeler project there too. See the gear teeth here, the shiny edges there that the synchronizers were jumping, so this would just bounce over the top. Exactly the same deal. And on this one, the shift fork is actually slightly bent. See the bend to the left there a little bit, and then it had excessive amount of stress on the plate that pushes the slider to lock it into actually third.
That's just a quick example. Those of you guys that know Jim, the last thing he ever envisioned himself doing was delivering online content. So he's done a good job of being able to utilize technology, and he's one that created a personalized YouTube channel. And then he's attaching, questions to the videos that he's creating and pushing out, and students respond to those. I know you don't know our ag teacher. Most of you don't. This is William Fritz. He's one that we're trying to get, some online content. We had planned that already. Intro to Ag that we're going to offer all of our member schools next year online. And he does a weekly challenge, a weekend challenge. This is his second video of a weekend challenge. And I've told him he needs his own show on PBS. I'll just give you a little snippet of what he's doing as far as online content.
I don't know about anybody else, Derek, but we're not able to hear that.
Do you know, I've tried to turn it up here, but is that better?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'll save you the long end of it. He's challenging them to make a milkshake. Obviously, dairy farmers right now are struggling a little bit. They're having to dump some of their product. So he's challenging to go out and buy local milk, local ice cream, and make their favorite milkshake over the weekend. It's nothing that's very taxing, but he embeds a lot of current, up-to-date ag information for the students and keeps them thinking about things that they can help do during this uncertain time and help out some local ag people. So anyway, those are just an example of a couple of the videos that have been sent out, created by our staff and students, trying to keep it light, but still keep progressing as far as education is going. So let's see. So I guess as far as like what we did with hourly staff, I know Mike asked me to talk a little bit about that as well. We had some support staff that their entire job was to help Mr. McFadden or help our health careers teacher keep students on track. And once we got the online classes set up, they were helping make the YouTube videos, holding cameras. They were helping email and call, students to keep track of them and get them squared away as far as what to do for the classes. But now that we've kind of got into the swing of things, how do you make it right that some have to come in while others are asked to stay home? And schools had looked at trying to pay them some overtime pay, so to speak, and we kind of got word from School Boards Association that was a no-no. So what we've gone with is we're asking those that are still being asked to come in to work 80% of full-time, and yet paying them for full-time. So that means that they're, taking Fridays off perhaps, or maybe they're leaving a couple hours early each day. Again, trying to make it right that they have to come in while others are working from home. Like I said, can't really do a hazard pay or any sort of multiplier. So that's kind of what we've gone with as far as trying to make it right for those that are coming in. And then we've totally adjusted what they're doing. Instead of being there to assist kids, they're assisting the custodian and making sure everything gets wiped down on a daily basis. Or, when we were initially bringing staff in to create content, they were running a daycare out of our, computer lab area, just watching each other's kids to give them the time to create the content and push that out. We've since, most of the staff is working from home except for, you know, our welding instructor who needs to come in and use the equipment, or Jim who's in there using the equipment to create those videos. But then they're coming in, creating the videos, creating the content, and going back home. Our business manager, Mindy, we've moved her entirely to her house. Michelle Carblum, we've stopped our mail getting delivered. She's picking that up at the post office Mondays and Thursdays, sending any bills on to Mindy. We've even put our phones on night mode and said, hey, you know, due to COVID-19, we're shut down. You need to get a hold of me. Here's my phone number. You know, give me a call. So I'm even working from home. It pains me to do that. I want to be there where the staff, you know, is occasionally, just for some normalcy, but the safest thing to do is work from home. So try to do that as much as I can. But any questions I guess you have as far as how we're delivering content to students? And I know, like I said, being a career and tech ed center, it was a little head scratching how we were going to try and tackle that, but the staff stepped up amazing, and they're knocking it out of the park, in my opinion.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Bolt?
Okay. Otherwise, thanks for letting me pop on and kind of give our description on what we're doing, and I'll sit back and take some notes on what you guys are all planning and see if I can support that in any way.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Move on to Mrs. Bitt's technology report.
Okay, real quick, like as far as technology is going, again, a shout out to all of the teachers. They are doing a fantastic job. I just ran a report out of our tech help desk, and within the last 30 days, I've closed 33 tickets. So that goes to show you that teachers and students are fluent in doing really well with their problem solving and figuring this stuff out. Laptop apps are going out to students in grades 9 through 12. We do that every year, where freshmen through 12th grade can apply for a laptop rather than an iPad. So I put those in their bags that go home on the buses yesterday when we were at school, and they will return those back to me by May. And a group of us will probably get together, I'm assuming at that time still. I wish I could say it wouldn't be over Zoom then, but it probably will be, to make the decision on who will be awarded a laptop. Our district is providing internet to 6 different families that weren't able to get internet. So when we sent out that survey, we needed to get some jetpacks out there that I got from Verizon, just simply because it was not possible for those families to get a back hookup. They didn't have the fiber running there. So the service wasn't even there. So I took a couple different days and went out and delivered jetpacks to the families so that they can get the online content that they need. So that's pretty impressive that in our district, just that small number of families weren't able to get online, and that we were able to provide that for them, as long as we're doing this distance learning, and everybody else has been seemingly to get connected fine. Meeting with teachers still once a week with EdChat. Our high school teachers meet on Wednesdays at 12:30 like we've done in the past, and then I just tag on to Mrs. Bussey's meetings on Thursdays. We're not really covering any new content because I think the teachers have enough right now just with this transition. So it's more of a time for us to share and make sure that their needs are met, as well as our students' needs, and address any questions that they have. And then a huge shout out to Bud and Dan. All of our active panels have been installed into the classroom. So even though this has been a tough time, in the end, the good thing is when the teachers come back, they will all have brand new active panels in their room. And Bud and Dan did a fantastic job going around and hammering that out almost right away. So thank you for that. Any questions?
Melissa, it's Lori. Is the jetpack a one-time purchase, or do we have a monthly fee that goes along with that for those 6 families?
Great question. It is a one-time purchase. for the actual hardware. So it was $200 for the jetpack itself. And then the first month they get 30 gigs, and the first month for that usage is 70, or I should say, the first device for the month is $70, and then each additional device was $50 for the month. And then when we're, this is just a month to pay as you go. We're not in a contract or anything. So after we're done with those, we will have the jetpacks. So if we wanted to look at like using that and being able to turn it on at certain times to use it on Wi-Fi on buses, then we have that option.
So are we picking up?
Put a thumbs up.
Are we picking up as a district the $70 and then the added 50 per device, or are the families?
We are picking it up as a district.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a note, so you know that.
We can talk about that. Oh.
Yeah, just to note that the CARES relief package that's coming out that we're going to be getting through the feds. That's part that cost will be covered by that if we choose to do that.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Questions of Melissa? Is that all you had, Melissa?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. We have building and grounds on the agenda. I know we haven't met at all, but did you have anything you wanted to add there?
I guess right now, we're still kind of just sitting and waiting until they decide to, that we're closed for the rest of the year. We don't want to get too crazy into doing anything with the buses. The classrooms, we'll have to give a fair amount of time for the teachers to come get their stuff organized, so we're not just, chucking their stuff out in the hallway. Fuel wise, I checked in the other day. We've still got over 14,000 gallons left. So that would leave us to only probably have to buy 6,000 to 10,000 next year if we wanted to. I'm sure, Arrowwood works really good with us. I'm sure we could order, our full amount and just keep carrying it over since everything's so cheap right now. But we'll just have to talk about that. Gas wise, we've got over 1,000 gallons in the tank, and that'll be pushing it on, making sure that doesn't go bad before we're able to use that. So I don't want to get, don't really want to get any more regular gasoline at this time. Like I said, building wise, basically we're just kind of waiting. As soon as we get the go ahead, I would say all of us will be back in, ready to rock and roll and kind of start on summer projects.
Okay. Any questions of Bud? Anybody has?
I
guess
do.
I just have one.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, just wondering about cleaning. I mean, are the janitors in there doing cleaning every day, or how is that being done? Just like deep cleaning, like the bleachers and things like that.
We have not. We went through right away. That I believe it was that first week, or maybe it was the second week, and went through and re-cleaned all the classrooms. Did all of that. That precautionary stuff. They have not really been in much since then. When you don't really know, we haven't had many people in there. So I guess that's kind of just where we're at with that, I guess. And, to do like for the gym and stuff like that, that'll get tackled right away and before we refinish the floor on June 3rd.
Bud, so you say they haven't been in. What do they do when we have teachers in? We've had, taken out materials. Aren't somebody coming in and sanitizing after those activities?
Well, it's if with everybody kind of hit and miss, I mean, I can definitely, have them, have them come and do, I don't know if we want to do it daily, if we want to do it, I don't know how we want to, how we want to look at that. So, I mean, there's multiple days where there's really nobody there at all. I think Severson was one of the only ones there today, a hit and miss teacher here and there. So I guess I don't know. That's kind of where we've been on that, I guess.
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, I'm back. So we had talked last time and we kind of pushed it aside, was that we should have one way into the school and one way, and only one way in, one way out. So that way you're not contaminating surfaces. Has that happened or did that just get pushed aside? Do you know?
I know we have not done that. I mean, we could send something out and do that. I don't know what that, takes on, on Melissa's end, if that's, locking everything to only use the one door. I guess I don't know how that part works, but
I can program it that way if we needed to.
I know most teachers go in their side of the building and then leave that side of the building. So they go in closest to their classrooms and then leave closest to their classroom, which we thought was.
They're probably touching less stuff then.
Well,
right?
yeah, that was our assumption, but.
That's what I remember. I remember that too, Melissa and Mrs. Bussey, that we were going to have them come in their wing so that they weren't going through the rest of the school. They were going to go through their wing doors so they stay in their area. That's what I remember from our discussion.
I just look at most businesses in town and most everybody is allowing one way in, one way out. I think it makes the most sense, especially Bud is in charge of the cleaning and having someone clean. If you have them always walking in the same door, you wipe down the same door. You don't have to be sending them down to the elementary to the high school except to look at teachers' rooms. I don't know. I just really like us to look at that.
But you got like, say, John Samuelson that has to walk from his door, or a mini tweet that has to walk from that main door all the way down the hallways. And they're basically contaminated the whole, if you're looking at germs, it's the whole building had to be cleaned then.
Not if they're not touching things. You touch a door when you go in. Am I right? I would like the building and grounds to really look at it. I think that it would be a way to stop it.
I almost think it would be safer for our staff to continue what we're doing because people are still showing up to our school even though it's a locked building. And those are the people who are being exposed to it in Fargo and Jamestown and these bigger communities. They come up to the door, they realize nobody's there, and then they walk away. I had multiple people come up to the door when I was doing bags the other day. So if they're avoiding that front entrance, elementary is using that wing and high school is only using that wing, they're avoiding people who aren't at home, go to the school, come back home. Do you know what I mean by that, Lori?
Yep.
So keep that. I mean, I agree with the discussion, but I was shocked that so many people came to the door when it was 3 people, which is a lot out in the middle of nowhere at a school. So to have them approach the door, look, if our teachers can avoid that, that's how I would look at the safety of our staff in general. And then of course, if you want us to sanitize and get into the building that way but just keep that in mind as we move forward with that discussion.
Well, where do we have the rest of them come? We have office staff, they're using the front. So, I mean, we're using 3 entrances then right now?
How often are you guys there, Lindsay and Deb? Is it once a week? Is that?
I suppose the kitchen is being used too.
Well,
Kitchen's being used to.
Kim and Emily and I, when we do food stuff, we go in that back door.
But now we got 4 entrances. So, I mean, we're getting a lot of entrances that we should have janitorial sweeping and cleaning.
Deb and I have been coming in once a week.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I guess,
I would, I guess, I'll chime in. I guess, I mean, I think there's some indecision on whether or not there's feelings that we really shouldn't have anybody in our building, as opposed to allowing certain people in there. So I think we have to get on the same page of understanding what way are we going to go? Are we going to, we don't want anybody really in there besides one or two people, or we're fine with people coming and going. You know, like one of them that came in was the guy that does the bug spraying or whatnot. I think maybe if this prolongs, we might need to look at these people that we have coming in and making sure that they're not, because we also had the Coke or Pepsi person that had come and restocked up in the concession stand. So if this goes, maybe we're going to have to postpone all of those things from outside sources that we're getting done to the school.
anybody have thoughts on that? I guess if we were closed, I'm not sure why they were coming in then. Because if that's the thought that you've had is to not have people in the building, then why would you let outside ones in?
The Coke person came in because they had to clean out the room. They had them come in. She took out all the outdated pop, and they came and collected that. And that's the only time I've seen them in the building, was when
I
they did
believe
that.
they've taken not only just the outdated, but all pop, because we received a large credit for that.
Yeah.
So
I just think there's some times we're gonna need people in the building. So I don't know if it's feasible to say there's nobody in there. Other schools are all having some. Derek, what do you got for people up there per day? I mean, what do you do at vocational? What do they do at the high school in Valley?
Yeah, teachers are considered, you know, essential staff, so they're coming in as needed to create content. They're kind of giving the advice to limit the amount of time that they're in there. But I know, and I mentioned it to Bud kind of on the side, that Valley City is doing like a flip card on every door so that they know where staff goes in the building. So it's, the card is green on one side, red on the other, and if they're going into the library, they flip it from green to red. And if they go into their classroom, same thing. So that way, each night custodial staff knows exactly what rooms need to be recleaned, which ones they can skip and let go another day. I don't think they're limiting which door they come in or anything like that, but yeah, as much as they can, you know, stay out of the building, but teachers can come and go as need be. I think everybody else, they're saying, you know, go to the district office. They're fortunate enough to have a separate building there where they don't, you know, have to have people coming in and out of the buildings. So.
But I think the same thing. If you can get it, so you limit it or end a certain time at 4 o'clock, no one else is in the building. That's when the custodians go in and just wipe down everything real quick. Or you have handy wipes or sandy wipes that are wipe the door handles off as you come in and go, just like you do with the Walmart carts and stuff like that. So something to that effect. But I mean, you can't. It's not feasible to say that no one can come in, or that they can only go to one door, because then they're basically use the whole building. You know, and Derek's idea with the cards to make sure that, you know, if someone walks out, you know, that way the custodians aren't guessing on what rooms are clean and what rooms need to be cleaned. So
That seems to work good. I know some of the custodians have come in getting stuff from us, and they say that flip card works ideal. Everybody knows what room needs to be wiped down, which ones you shouldn't go in, that type of thing.
Does anyone have a thought? I mean, are we wanting to do this daily? I mean, you know, Joan's got a, whatever it is, I don't know, 20-mile drive to the school. You know, Dave's right there. You know, I'm only 10 miles away, but I mean, does anybody have a thought on what we want for cleaning? How often? What are we thinking there?
I think you need to look at it daily, and it could be scheduled. It could be one person per day and just do a rotation.
or you talk to the teachers and figure out what days that they're going to go in. If it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they go in, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, they go in. You know, something to that effect. Where I don't know if the teachers have to go in every day or not, but that way you can kind of schedule your custodians out that way too.
I think on the teacher end of it, I believe, you know, they're going when they, you know, only when they have to. You know, Tress has only been there a couple times, maybe 3 times since we've been out. You know, so I mean, it's kind of a limited deal, and you know, it's mainly, you know, yeah, before we send stuff out or after the stuff returns. You know, so yeah, we can work on something to make that work.
Can I say something? Could we hear from the teachers that are on right now? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on usage of the building? How often you have to go in? Because I know just from an experience this week, my son had lost a math book, and his teacher, because of teaching from the hours that they've been scheduled, the office hours, wouldn't be able to get there before 4 o'clock if we were to shut the doors down. So I need to hear from the teachers. You're teaching, you're also raising your families and doing all that like everybody else. When and how often do you feel as a teacher you need to be in the building? You're the front lines. Come on, teachers, speak up. Now's your chance.
I have scheduled, kids can call if they, or email me if they want to take AR tests on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I've done a makeup session one other day, and I went and borrowed fans one day from Bud. We had water in our basement, but otherwise, Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually when I go in. And I'm usually there 2-3 hours at the max.
I've only been there one time, and that was to gather more stuff for kids and whatnot and give them material to take out on the buses. I will be going on Tuesday to clean out some desks, that stuff that more kids need. I know primary does go a little bit more just because they need to make copies and get that out on the bus routes to the littles. 6th grade isn't that bad for making copies and whatnot, but I know primary goes a little bit more than I do anyway.
We're having, as principals, the teachers check in with us when they're going and coming as part of a safety protocol, and the hours have varied, like depending on the teacher themselves or, you know, what needs to be done. We're getting messages early in the morning until later in the evening. So, which makes sense, because if they're doing schooling for their own children, that's the time that they're going to go and do it. Plus teaching in the day.
Can I jump in quick with the stuff on the chat? Just can we try to refrain from that, because due to open meeting laws, the chat doesn't transfer for the video. And so they've like cautioned against that. But I'll just read what's on there if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's what we need to see.
Mr. Hance said that he's only used the building 3 times, maybe once a week he goes in. Mrs. Heinze said she goes in once a week also. Mrs. Miller said she goes in once a week. Chad asked what time works best for the teachers, 8 to 4 or later. Tori, but it said it was Mackenzie on Tori's laptop. She goes in when she has time to drop, when we have the drop off happens and plans for 2 weeks. So she goes in once every 2 weeks. And then Mrs. Bryn said, I go in once a week because my kids are older. I go around 2 and can be gone by 4.
So in all that, I'm sensing that probably some point every day of the week, somebody's in the building. Can somebody say that's not a fact or no? I believe it. I mean, the office staff is going in. Beth is going in, a couple other ones are going. So I think there's somebody in that building every day, every week. And I think as we move forward, when we get to talking about this election stuff, and if we get talking about more meals or whatever, there's going to be activity in that building every day of the week. So I think that's what we got to look at is, as that progresses, that we do need some custodial staff to protect our people to get that place sanitized daily. and clean.
Mike, can I say one thing?
Yep.
Well, Bud Express, there's people far away. Why don't we do Chad's idea? I mean, people are coming hitting and miss so often. Just set a schedule. All the teachers come in Monday and Wednesdays. That's when the custodians come in Monday, Wednesday night and clean.
If that's the case, yeah, but I said right now it looks like we're getting everybody.
Right, but set a schedule so we're not hassling over this.
No, if we could get, I agree with that. We could have 3 days. You got 3 janitorial people.
Right.
One
The
day a
teachers
week.
know they can only come in Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. That's it. I'm sure they can handle that.
I think that could be scheduled.
Yep.
We can turn it over, Bud and I and principals, well, actual leadership team, we can talk about this and get something set up.
Okay. Let us know what comes about from that.
Yep.
I like the idea Mr. Bope had about the red tag, green tag. You can tell if somebody's been in the door or not. Wouldn't be hard to put a red, green, and you just flip it on your door.
Yep, it works very good.
Mrs. Undum, do we still have the red and green tags we had for fire drills and stuff? So Bud's shaking his head, yes, so just use
those, Mindy, so it must be there.
Yeah. Put those, hang those on the door. And then that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all located in their emergency buckets in every room, I believe.
Okay. Okay, you guys work on that. Budget and finance, we haven't met. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mr. Severson, or
No,
anything?
I'm just waiting for more information, like the transportation payments, things like that. If we can get some more information on that, but we can go ahead and I can go ahead and start or continue with putting the expenditures together. We still, like I said, won't know about revenue until especially the transportation shakes out. But other than that, we should be fine.
Okay, thanks. Mrs. Bussey, pre-K 6 principals report.
My teachers are doing an awesome job in this transition. We started meeting daily when we first started, and it's down to Tuesdays and Thursdays for however long they need. I wish I had better news on the grant, but I just got a report saying that we did not receive funding this time around. So that was kind of heartbreaking. Thankfully, I just did the Energy Bus book study with a bunch of teachers. So I did not cry physical tears, but yeah, they've been transitioning really well. Teachers who didn't think that they would be comfortable with technology have jumped in and done amazing things with our students in just a short amount of time. That's about where I'm at right now. So I'm at the building Mondays. I'm helping with the meal stuff on Mondays. And then every other Friday I prep all the bags for the bus pickups and drop-offs and stuff like that. So teachers have been checking in with me when they go to the school, which has seemed to work well. It's just a quick text message or an email saying that they're going there, and then they text again when they leave. But
Okay,
questions?
thanks. Anybody got any questions for?
I guess I do, and maybe this will be covered later, but I guess I'm wondering why Mrs. Bussey and Emily, you're helping with meals and not the cooks. I guess I don't understand that. What's the reasoning behind that?
I originally was the main Cindy, I was originally the main I was originally the main contact for parents when we did our plan. So I was the main contact, and I would put it in a form and organize it. And Kim has been worried about being exposed just because of being high risk. So she would like to be around a smaller group of people. And we had Emily in place when we thought like before we knew how big it would be, we had a focus on some kids that we knew would need it close by the school. And so originally with the plan prior, IEP kids could come to the building. So we were planning on Emily kind of doing, you know, working alongside with Kim and prepping like hot meals for those kids who are in our building. And that's where it started out. So to get her hours and stuff, she's been there. Her and Kim have been working together. Now Kim's worried about being exposed through the grapevine of having a big group or bigger group of people. But I know she's open to it. And if we got more families, we had talked about calling more in. It's just, they have a really good system in place right now. They're both comfortable on each other and they know where they've been as far as like tracking others and, you know, community spread or that contact that they've had. So it just happened that way just because of the contact list and what we were doing with our IEP kids. Then Cheyenne Valley Special Education shifted it, so we weren't able to be in the building at all, even one-on-one with groups of kids. And then it just kind of stayed with Emily helping out since it was a lot of those kids that we're servicing as far as in our main intent prior. Does that make sense?
To add to that too, Emily was took over the food pantry that we were running out of the high school counselor's office when Mrs. Doctor left. So it was just a natural progression for her to then also help out with the elementary side as well. So she was taking care of that high school food pantry program. So her transitioning during this time to help out just made sense.
And she uses those Mondays to go through and make sure none of that food is expired and, you know, sends it out with some of the orders to make sure that the shelf life isn't expiring. So it has kind of just blended nicely.
That makes sense. And as far as Kim, I mean, could the other cooks come in? Could they rotate? And I just feel like it's all on a couple people when, if we're trying to utilize our staff, I feel like.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And we've talked about that too. I know that she was going to reach out to others about it if, you know, because we're kind of like busting at the seams just right at this point. And so.
We have one other cook that's hired.
Yeah. That was something that Mr. Severson and I and Kim have had an ongoing discussion about. So.
You know, and just to add to that, we have talked about it, and if it continues to grow, we will need to do some things differently. Right now, we're just prepping meals once a week, and then Emily's basically delivering them, and that's kind of how it started too. Was that Emily was going to do the delivering, and now that we've gotten more families, we may have to do a rotation basis where if we've got too many to prep on Monday morning, we may have to go Monday, Wednesday, and then bring different people in at that time too. So. We're just kind of in a whole pattern right now with making sure that the ones that we've got on the list are being serviced. And yes, that will come if we get more families. We will be rotating staff members.
Okay.
So, and I guess I have another question about the food. So the meals that are going out, is this all free for families? Or how is that working?
Cover that one?
What's that?
I said, do you want to cover that one?
Yeah.
Mr. Pearson?
We are able to, we're being reimbursed for it. We got an emergency declaration. There's a paperwork that we had to fill out that you can go when school's not in session. So those meals are reimbursable. Kim keeps track of the meals for the week. She puts in a daily, she has to do a meal for each twice a day, breakfast and dinner. She has to do one for each kid for each day, and then that paperwork gets turned into the state, and then we'll be reimbursed for those meals.
It's considered an extension to the summer food program, which Barnes County North did not have in place. So that's why our community members are seeing a lot of discrepancy. Like they're going, but this school is doing this and this school is doing this. And I say, try not to compare us to other schools because a lot of the schools have a summer program in place, whereas we don't.
So we could apply for that, correct?
That's what Mr. Severson was talking about. It's an extension, but they already had, like, they have their setup in place already and we don't. And so I just want people to be aware of that when they're comparing us to other schools and what it looks like there versus at our school. So.
Because I guess when this all started and we got the email about if you needed help with meals or whatever, I just assumed that was for kids that were on the free and reduced meal program. And I get the impression now that it's open to everyone. Do parents know that? Because I just heard that today and I had no clue. So that's, I guess I want clarification on who qualifies, cost, things like that.
Well, given our size and stuff, to me, like when I brought it forward to Mr. Severson, because we're not required to do anything like that, I was thinking about our kids who would need it while on an extended break. And those kids who are on our free and reduced meal programs. I mean, that was our intent. But when somebody asks, how do you deny them if they say, yeah, we could really use the help with this right now? So like, that's not for us to say. It's on our plan, posted on the website. So I mean, I know it's not easily accessible, but I'm not sure we have the manpower to serve our whole district if without having something in place already.
And that would be, just to go on to that, what we'd have to do is if we get more people, we may have to set up distribution sites where we would just show up with so many meals. You'd have to order or pre-order whatever for the week and do something of that nature, as opposed to what we're doing now, because right now they're preparing the meals, they're delivering the meals, and I think there's a couple places that have to pick them up. But if we get many more, we're going to have to set up, that you'll have to meet the bus or meet the vehicle at a certain spot. So yes, it has been open to anybody that wants to do it. And we're able, like I said, we're able to work through reimbursement for it, but we'll have to do a lot of changing if we get a lot of people that are doing it.
Originally, we had 6 families sign up for it, and we are up to, I just have to pull it up, so give me a second.
Kim told me today we're 17 families, 41 students.
So we started out when we first sent out the plan with 6 families. And we've had people reach out and say, well, this is what Midkota is doing, or this is what they're doing. And originally, when the administration met that Monday after schools closed, Mr. Severson was already on the phone to Mr. Johnson saying, how can we work together to serve our Valley City students? So Valley City is serving free meals. So we emailed, or shared that with our families. Jamestown is serving students who live in Jamestown, even if they're not in the district. So Mr. Severson talked to Mr. Johnson about that originally, and that's how we slowly got the ball rolling. But now we're up to 17 families. So it's like, okay, so we have to readjust things, and we're still learning as we're going and didn't have the supplies or the process set up in place to even have a summer program. So
Ms. Bussey, you said that originally you started looking for free and reduced. So why didn't you pursue that further originally?
We have been reaching out to families. Originally, yes. Mr. Severson said, well, if they contact you about it, give it to them, because we figured if they contacted us about it, then they would need it. Like, who am I to judge who would need it and not need it?
Well, you said you had some that you knew needed it. Wouldn't most of our free and reduced probably need it?
I would assume that they did. We're assuming that they do, so that's why we deliver those. We deliver those meals and are now requiring others to pick them up just because we don't have the space to do it.
But you could change and not deliver 5 meals at one time. You could do not as many at a time.
We could, but that's all still things we're learning as we go, and we're trying to figure it out based on the amount of families we have.
Okay. Well, we've got it on the agenda for later, so unless there's more right here to visit about meals.
The only thing would be, how long do we continue to do it? We can either, I mean, I think our original plan was we were going to go till the end of school. If we're out for the rest of the year, we were going to the end of school. But, then if we wanted to go into the summer, we'd have to redo some things, so.
Okay. Anything else on it right now? I say we do have it down on the agenda later if something comes up.
No, I guess I opened the can of worms early, but yeah, it was just a question I had.
Sure. Thanks, Cindy. Anything else, Mrs. Busty, on principal's report? Elementary? Okay. Mr. Wilson, 712, principal's report.
The onlines, Ed's going well again. The staff has been doing a fantastic job, and so have our students in adapting to it. Taking part in the Region 6 principal meetings that are taking place weekly, and I can say that we are in a far better position than a lot of other schools are as far as the online education process is going. Some of the concerns that everybody's having is having to do with grading, workload, non-participation, the failing of students, graduation, prom, reopening discussions, and some schools are thinking of ending a little bit earlier and then using the final week or 2 weeks for students who are struggling or whatnot. But, those are the same concerns that are going on statewide. I mean, we're just kind of in a constant holding pattern, waiting on the governor's next decision as far as what's going to go. I think the biggest one out there right now is, and we kind of talked about it earlier this week, on when is our cutoff point ongoing that, that this is going to be how we are going to end the entire year, the rest of the year. There's still some, well, are we going to get back into the school? Or are we not going to get back into the school? But that's a concern everywhere else. But yeah, the teachers have been doing good. We have our meeting. We have our next one tomorrow, and it's a good place for them to share different ideas and concerns for students that, I haven't heard from this student. Well, yeah, I talked to that student yesterday, so on and so forth. So it's a learning experience for students and teachers. And this was our second week of, the requirement of it. So it's getting better. But again, we have some concerns for students that were struggling with that everyday contact. And now with this, it's made it difficult. But the important thing is, and our teachers are really doing a good job of not adding to the stress levels that are in our families' homes as a result of this, because we have to remember that, parents, whether they're being laid off, they're coming home from work, they're then having to assume the role of helper, teacher, with that. So frustration levels can rise as a result of that. So, but our teachers are doing a good job of not overloading and not adding to the stress levels of our students.
Can I ask you a question there,
Yeah.
Mr. Wilson?
Yep.
When are your assignments due? Are they due Fridays for the week, or what are your?
Each teacher's made their own. They set out their expectations on when they're going to meet, if they're going to require an online live session, the homeworks. But for the most part, it goes from either weekly or every 2 or 3 days that an assignment will be due.
because I've heard from some, that, like you say, there's struggles at home. So a lot of these parents are working, trying to get the kids in, and they would sure like the assignments to maybe come so they could be done on a Sunday. So these people could look at that weekend to help with their kids. Would that be a suggestion, at least to talk with your teachers on?
So can you say that again?
So instead of it being done like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these parents are working, so they don't have enough time a lot to work with their kids at home. So their question is, could some of those assignments be due by, say, Sunday evening, so they have access to the weekend to help with their students' assignments? Is that something you could visit with your teachers about?
Well, see, and I've received a lot of emails on one, and I had to bring it up to the teachers in our last one of wondering why things are being done on the weekends, why assignments were having to be due on the weekends. So that, I think if we went to that, we would have more complaints because, I've told
I
my
don't think they all have to be that.
kids
Would the
having to
option
put
be
all
there
stuff
that they
on the
wouldn't
weekend.
have to? Would the option be there that because there's a lot of ones that these parents are still working.
Mike, I think in
Yeah.
all of our discussions, we've asked our teachers just to be super flexible and
Okay.
talk to those families and see what they need individually. And I know that discussion has been brought up in the high school too. So if we see a student struggling with work, we're keeping track of it, and then we reach out to them. What do you need to be more successful in this? Do you need to be able to submit on a Sunday? Because we could make that happen. So
That's what I'm looking. Is there just an option for that? Yeah.
yeah, we've asked our
No
teachers to be flexible too with it. Sorry, Mr. Wilson, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, no teacher sticking to, well, it was due Wednesday and you didn't. No, it's okay. How many more days do you need? It's going with that. There's no finite dates for, oh, this was due, now it's late, you're not going to get a grade on it. It's whatever. And I've stressed that during our meetings going, you got to be flexible, like if you're going to have a Zoom meeting at 10 o'clock, you've got to have something in place, record that for students who aren't able to attend during that time. Because what we're running into is we have multiple kids in households and they're all trying to do online meetings at the same times and things are going. So, that's why I said it can't be a requirement that you have to be on here at 10 o'clock. No, if they can, they can. If not, you have to have a way of them being able to access that information that was passed along during that time. And they've done a good job of doing that.
And that's how you're tracking attendance and all that type of stuff, what you said at the last board meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
I've got one thing to add to that, though. I've heard somebody say on our Zoom meeting, I was listening to my kids, and they're like, this is going to be done, and it has to be done by Friday, and I'm taking it off, and after that, you can't go back and do it anymore. So that's kind of just opposite of what you just said there.
Okay.
That's good to know too, because maybe they're saying that with the hopes it'll scare them into getting it done, but then they'll reach out to them if they don't.
Well, I know I was listening to Brady, so I think it was English, and is that Mrs. McGee?
Yep.
Yeah, so she said, yeah, this assignment's it has to be done by Friday, and once Friday's done, I'm pulling it off the thing, so you can't go back and work on it later. So
yeah, those were her threats. And then like in the last one, I told the teachers too that their grades have to really reflect their current standing. That if they've got a bad grade, if they've got stuff that's not in there, because I don't want them to get a false sense of security and going, well, I've got an A in the class, I don't need to do any of this stuff. And then boom, at the end, it happens because we don't have that time. So she said that when she put in a whole bunch of those zeros or whatnot, she started getting a whole lot of work submitted in, and those went away. So those, I'm telling the teachers, and I told them that don't let the students know that you're going to be flexible, but, try and find whatever ways that we can entice them to get the work done, because we don't have that face-to-face contact. We can't remind them every day that, hey, are you working on this? Are you doing show me or whatnot? So
Yes. Okay.
There's a fine line right now with this distance learning of holding kids accountable, but making sure that we're providing that flexibility for working parents. So that's
Can I
what
ask a question?
we're working on, and that's why we meet so frequently to talk to teachers about it. Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just listening to how often are our students, and the principals will probably have to answer this, how often are our students in front of their teacher? Because I know, and I'm just gonna really toot some horns right now, but Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Amen have blown this distance learning out of the water. They are in front of, my kindergartners are with their teacher every single day, twice a day, checking in, doing lessons, seeing their friends. And right now, besides all the learning, what about mental health? How are we making sure these kids that the only socialization they've ever had is at school is now been taken away? How is that happening? Like in all the grades? I only know second and fifth, or kindergarten and fifth. I don't know any other grades.
So we can toot some parents' horns too and saying that our Zoom attendance has been outstanding. But when we wrote the plan, Zoom attendance was not required. It's the online learning management systems that are required, and that's because of the flexibility that they need to be able to access the work and when not to access the work. I can tell you, I have a doc for all my teachers of when they're on Zoom, what their Zoom code is, so that I can pop in anytime. And they're going above and beyond my expectations. But I know that looks different at every level you're at. So in preschool, Miss Mayers keeps it to 10 minutes. And after helping Britton through that, that's all I would be able to handle. And she does a really excellent job of just getting them that information, showing them what they need to do, and then giving parents that message over Seesaw of what is expected for them to submit. So that's from the elementary side of it. What you're seeing, Michelle, is consistent throughout classes and classrooms. Mr. Wilson could speak for his staff. Sorry, I muted it too quick.
not fast enough. No, yeah, the high school staff, they're conducting regular Zoom meetings. Again, I told them that it's not a requirement, but most of them are doing those, and they're having a high turnout on those. But I'll let Mr. Purcell speak on how he does his, since he's still on here.
Roping me into this, okay.
Yep.
I host mine on Fridays, typically just Fridays. I have them set about a half hour for each class. It's not a time per se for social interaction for all of them to chatter. It's a time for me to answer questions, help them, for them to express concerns that they have. So if there's something class related they have a problem with, they can bring it up. If they have something else, I mean, it's if there are other problems outside of just my room, they're free to talk too. I mean, that's okay. As far as just them socializing, I think they do a pretty good job of that between their games and everything else. But I mean, like I said, mine, it's a half an hour. I do mine just Fridays. I know some teachers only host them when needed. Last Friday here, we didn't have one because of the holiday. And this Friday, I might not have one if I have a scheduling issue coming up. So I might not have it then. If they need it, okay, then they're free to let me know. I mean, it's I use it more as a tool to help them than so much as a mandated thing that we have to do. I think Mrs. McGee meets with her kids every day. And I want to say Miss Albright might do once a week on Tuesdays. But it's more of a touch base thing to ensure that we're not losing kids, or they don't understand what's going on. If it's a slightly bigger assignment or a project, then I can share the screen and I can go through the review and I can explain things, because it's easier to do it when I'm talking to you than it is for me to try to type it and say, hey, read these instructions and figure it out. I mean, I guess it's just, I would say it varies from person to person, but for me, it's more of just an explanatory thing. It's an extra thing if they need it.
Mrs. K has been reaching out as far as counseling lessons too. And Title just set up open Zoom hours. So it actually chimes when a student asks to join the Zoom meeting. So they have that on in the background for certain hours of the day, which I think will be super helpful for our students as we move forward. Sorry, Cindy, I keep cutting you off tonight. Go ahead.
No, so I guess I want to, as a coming from a parent, to maybe help, because I have one on elementary and Mrs. Tweet's doing a great job with her class, and then I have 2 on the high school wing. As far as the meetings, because I understand, not with the high school wing, it's a totally different thing than the elementary. So you don't necessarily have to do Zoom meetings every day. You might only have to meet once a week. My boys do not like doing Zoom meetings. And so maybe as a way to get them to do their homework, their teachers can threaten to have a mandatory Zoom meeting if homework's not handed in on a regular basis. Just coming from the parent side of it, because they both said to me today, they're like, we do not want any more Zoom meetings because they like their free time. And so me being a parent having to always harp on them, is your homework done? Are you getting this done? Because I think it's harder for the high school side of it as a parent to make sure things are getting done versus elementary. And so I don't know, that's a suggestion as a parent, that they don't like Zoom meetings. So if they're not handing in homework, to have teachers schedule more Zoom meetings and then don't have them if they're handing in their work.
And that's exactly why we set up the open title times, because we've heard that parents are getting frustrated trying to get their kids to work. And so I know my own daughter, she's a very good kid and a very good student, but the first 5 minutes before Zoom, I want to pull my hair out, and then she sees her teacher on Zoom and she's like, so we said, if we can help by getting your child face-to-face, one-on-one in a Zoom meeting, that's what we're going to do. And our title teachers and our regular teachers are more than willing to set up that time with students too. So
Cindy, we might have to flip the threat. You know, you always had the threat of coming to the school to visit them. Maybe I might have to threaten to come to your guys' place and visit and make them do their work.
Something, because yeah, it's we had a little throwdown today, I'm not gonna lie. And so I get a lot of, I handed it in, or I didn't get the message on Schoology, or it's all these little excuses, and then come to find out he's had it this whole time and hasn't done it. So I don't know, and it's different with every class, but I don't know, maybe that could just be an incentive, you know, like with Mrs. McGee threatening, you know, if you don't have it done by Friday, you can't do it anymore type thing. So I don't know, just as the parent side of it, that's what I'm seeing at home.
I want to
For high school.
I want to see Mrs. Bussey and Mr. Wilson get in a vehicle and go do visits. I think that'd be hilarious.
I have.
No, but I mean, no, I'm talking the funny ones, you know, like crack the whip, get them doing it.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else, Mr. Wilson?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Severson's superintendent report.
Yeah, we've been having our NDCEL Zoom meetings at noon. We started out when schools went out of session. We started out daily. We've moved it to now Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, just because you got less things to deal with at this point. You know, there was all the paperwork and everything right away. Now we're into the doing phase as opposed to trying to figure out where we're going. Superintendent Baszler has her updates at 3 o'clock daily, and then Governor Burgum's press conference. He has a daily conference that we're in on every day. We have the CARES relief funding package that's coming to us. They sent out our estimated allocations today, and we should be receiving $64,658. And there is a list of items that we can use that for. Once they get the application set up, we'll be able to work through that. So the leadership team will meet and figure out how we want to spend that. Part of it will be going toward our deliveries on Fridays with our, because we can't claim any more transportation miles when school's not in session. This package can work to cover those miles as well. And then just a note on the activity director's report. High school activities met the other day, and they have postponed indefinitely again. Well, they've kept the postponement indefinitely on all activities, but they'll reevaluate May 1st. So with that in mind, that's that they're looking at the same things that we are, but waiting for guidance from the governor on that.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Severson? I just have a couple, and that might be the principals type thing, but how is attendance going? You're going to update us when you send your board letter out how attendance is doing, the staff attendance, or what do we do? Or do we have any counselor visits? I mean, where are we at on any of that type of stuff? And some of it might be principals questions, I guess.
Counselor visits as far as Mrs. K checking in with students?
Or if they've had requests or she's checking in, what, how many visits or what she's had or anything like that?
I know that she's meeting with kids. She's giving them that. She's been reaching out to families that she has seen consistently throughout the year and talking to the parents and telling them their options and then allowing them to decide. And I know some have decided where she had Zoom meetings with them one-on-one. Others have opted out through the end of the school year, but she's doing weekly lessons over Seesaw and Schoology, depending on what kids it is. As far as teacher attendance, we're, our meeting check-ins, and I pop into Zoom meetings and I can see how much they're putting into their work and base it on that. So I had a teacher message me saying she had a virtual appointment. What should she do? And I said, reschedule with that student that you're supposed to meet with. If you can't get it to reschedule, then take that time off that you used outside of that contracted hours. And so that's what we've been doing, I guess. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, was that for teacher attendance or student attendance?
Question was both.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and sorry, for student attendance, if they're getting their work done, we're counting it as they're attending. So with that flexibility time frame, teachers are keeping attendance in Zoom and they're recording it on a Google Doc to let me know whether or not I should reach out to the parents to see why they're not attending. Like, is it an internet issue, which now we know it's not? Is it because their siblings on Zoom at the exact same time in a different room? So we've been hammering out those little things, and our attendance is actually extremely good, both online and submitting of work right now on the elementary side.
Okay, thanks.
For high school, yeah, the teachers submit their lesson plans to me the Friday before each week, and then whenever they have Zooms or whatnot, they invite me. I've sat in on quite a few of them. As far as student attendance, that it, completed work, Zoom attendance. A lot of teachers are putting, question of the day, or a question or a problem or something that when the students log in, they just answer that question, and that counts as an attendance tracker as well. So at the high school level, we're using a variety of different means to account for attendance wise. And as
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you do for both elementary or secondary? What do you do for classes that are such as music? How are you delivering that out to them?
They're pushing it out over their learning management system, and families can do it as an extra as extra. So like today we had some time in between a Zoom session. So we did Mrs. Bollingberg's music post that she did. And I know some teachers are including those things within their Zoom classes. So one of my child's teachers, they actually showed the music video over the screen share on their Zoom class. And then they do more of like a movement brain break of some of the suggestions that Mr. T is doing. But they're pushing stuff out over their learning management system in the elementary side.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's doing the same at the high school level with her 2 classes too, sending out work for the 2 classes that she's got. I mean, you know, and then I have the same thing with my daughters here on, you know, with band, and it's like, well, everything's done, and you know, hers is what's more for my end. Well, don't worry about that aspect. Get this rest of the stuff because you don't have any more performances or whatnot that you got to get done. So get your math, all of those things done. So, but Mrs. Bollingberg is still sending out stuff over Zoom, posting assignments, whatnot, and getting that stuff turned back in.
Okay. Got anything else, Mr. Severson?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. We moved to old business. We got approval of school calendar.
Okay, again, it would be the one that we're starting. We'd have professional development on August 17th, and then 18th would be our first day of school. We'd have the 24th as another professional development day, and then we're done on the 20th with graduation on the 23rd of May. And the request was if there was more than 5 days missed, we would make up days after that. So the 3 storm days that we were proposing to put in the schedule would be Monday, January 28th, which right now is Martin Luther King Day, Monday, February 15th, which is President's Day, and Friday, March 19th, which would be our spring break day. So those would be the 3 days that will be made up if we get to the five days of mess time.
Okay.
Did I miss receiving an updated calendar, or are we just going off the old one that we had?
Yeah, we haven't sent anything out because we were,
Okay.
it's the same one that was given to you last
Right,
month.
okay. Yep, and I have that right here, so.
And then once if you approve this one, then we'll send out a brand new one with, and we'll include the storm days and somehow, well, we'll have to do you know, tell everybody how it's going to work, but it won't reflect that on the schedule. We're just going to have to send that out to parents that after 5 days, we will make up those 3 days if we need to.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on calendar? Any questions?
Weren't we given 2 calendars last time?
Yes, we had 2 start dates and 2 end dates, yes.
Okay, and you're saying the start date of, which one are we looking at, Mr. Severson?
August 17th would be the in-service day. First day of school is the 18th, and we're done before Memorial. We're done the week before Memorial Day. The second calendar was the one that had us getting done at Memorial Day. That was the one that everybody was in favor of, was the one that's starting on the 17th and ending on the 20th with graduation on the 23rd. We just need to get the 3 storm days in there. So we just need approval of the calendar.
The discussion last time was on them 2 dates and the time. I think Chad, I don't know if you were there, but the discussion was on which of the start days, the week apart, and how many days we were comfortable with not having school for flexibility types. So, and we had talked about the 5 days, so they were going to look at storm day makeups. Any other questions or comments on calendar? If not, we would need a motion to approve the 2020-2021 school calendar.
So move.
I will second.
I'll second.
Rob got the second. Any other discussion on it? I know I really like the flexibility that the states give us for making better decisions for storms and roads for safety of kids and staff on the questionable roads. I question what not making up storm days does, the perception it gives out to the district. I think not making up storm day gives a message to the district that we don't value a day's worth of education as much as we should. And I also believe that teacher interaction and learning time is the best interest of kids. And I think that's what we're all here for, is to what's the best interest of kids. So just my thoughts. I just think that by doing that and not making up some of those days, just doesn't show how much we value a day of education. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Well, then, Mike, what's your suggestion? I mean,
I think we make them up. I think we want to do the best for kids, and I think we should make them up. The flexibility, in my mind, was to do the late starts, early outs for the safety during storms, so we're not putting kids at risk when we shouldn't have them on the road. If we need to have a day off, I believe, that's just me, I believe the value of getting them kids back in the classroom is the best interest of our kids, and I believe that's what we're here for.
How about our distance learning plan now? Could you?
I don't think that is I don't think that is at the same level of kids in the classroom. Or meeting, you're witnessing right now. I don't believe the distance learning. I know everybody's doing a great job, but is that at the level of what we could get with them in the classroom?
No.
At this point, I don't think so. That's just my thought. So the motion is for approval of the calendar, and it's been seconded, so no other discussion. Roll call, Lindsay.
Mike?
No.
Chad?
No.
Cindy?
I approve it as long as we make up days after a certain amount of missed. So it would be yes with after missing 5 days.
Michelle?
No.
Rob?
I'm on the same thing as Cindy. Wasn't it to make up after the?
To make up after 5 missed days, yes.
Okay, then I would yes.
Lori, sorry, I lost my track.
It shouldn't be this hard. No.
Brent?
Yes.
Lee?
No.
And Brett?
No.
What's our tally, Lindsay? I never kept track.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no's and 3 yeses.
Okay. So that motion fails. So where are we at now? Send it back to you guys to look at?
Well, if the discussion is that you want everything made up, we just add the storm days and we make them up. You can't, I mean, we'd have 5 storm days after Christmas that we can make, because you can't make anything up in the first semester. So you can approve this calendar and say make up day, hour for hour, minute for minute, whatever you want. Because this is the calendar everybody agreed upon. It's just that you're not agreeing upon the idea of the flexibility.
Well, I don't think the flexibility is in question. It's just the amount of days. I mean, 5 days is a lot. I mean, that's a week of school. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, if you missed a week of late starts or early outs, that'd be one thing. But to take a whole week of school off and not make it up, that's a lot. You know, if you want to do 1 or 2, I could maybe agree with that. But doing 5 days is just way too much.
I think that's where a lot of us are at. I think the 5 is too much.
So then is it possible to make a new motion with, to approve the calendar with those snow days, but with only using 3 days of flexibility? Is, you know, a non-makeup days of 3? Is that anything anybody would be willing, or does that bother everybody too?
I think the other thing that you got to also take into consideration too is that the more that you add, the fewer breaks that they're going to be in the school year as a result of taking away those days, those storm days that are coming on off days, scheduled days to be off. Since we can't make up any during the first part of the year, which is generally where we have a majority of our days occur. And then we talked about last time as well of having a cutoff date of when that happens. We just use that flexibility and we don't look to make up those days. So we're really just looking at mainly January and February as days to be able to use for makeup.
We did the 5 days because that was the recommendation brought forward at the last meeting. We also talked about how Barnes County North has that extra 20 minutes into their school day. So that, I mean, we did that based off the discussion we had last time.
And that's because when it was brought up, it was said that we could take 10 days off. That's where the discussion started. Am I right, Mr. Wilson, on that?
He said we could have up to 19 days.
Yeah, we could have up to 19 days.
So,
and elementary even way more, but it's,
well,
yeah.
Right. But then I brought up at that meeting that our teachers are complaining when we want to add extra prep times to their day, like doing music 5 days. If I had 5 days a week, they were complaining they weren't getting enough time. So they have extra time in their day every day, but then we're hearing complaints that they don't have enough time. So now we're saying, well, we're okay if we don't make up 5 full days. And I think we are just saying, yes, that was the discussion last time. It was the discussion. It wasn't that we didn't vote that, yes, we're okay with 5 days. And if we did, I don't remember that, and that's my bad. I would be okay with 3 days because the way I look at it, yes, you're going to have these days here and there, and hopefully we don't have to do it. I mean, I think this is it's like insurance. Hopefully we don't have to use it. But the public does not care about 20 extra minutes a day that our kids are sitting in school. That doesn't make sense to them. They have no idea what that means. And we could explain it till we're blue in the face, and they're still going to just see, wow, Barnes County North missed 5 days of school and they are not making any of them up. That's all they're going to see. And I think that's where Mike Schwer is coming from. And I think for me, 5 is too many. 3, like Lori said, I'd be all right with that. I'd be okay dropping it down to the 3 and making up after that. Because
I would be fine with also 2 or 3 days that we grace out, but not 5.
If discussion's done, I'll make that motion for keep the calendar with makeup days after 3.
Okay, motion by Chad to make up days after 3.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion there?
Now that the 3 days would include one grace day, so keep in mind that we wouldn't be making up that first one. We'd only be making up. the next
No,
two.
we will still be only making, the grace day will count as one of the 3.
Yes.
Yep. Lindsay, roll call on making up after 3 days.
First of all, Mike, before you do that, are you thinking that we're using those 3 days or the 3 that are set for storm days?
That can still stay, yes.
So we have 5 days in the second semester that are designated as days off. Are we just going to use those first 3, or are we using all 5 if we get beyond 3?
If you think that there should be some different days off, you can adjust that in your amended calendar, what we haven't seen.
No, I'm just curious, do we say that, okay, so in the first semester, we miss 5 days, so we got to make up, well, if we say we missed 8 days, we got to make up 5 of them. Are we going to use all 5 days that we have off in the second semester?
In that scenario, I'd say yes.
Okay, so then, because I want to know when we list ours on the calendar, when we list them as days off or as snow days, I would list those 5 as our 5 makeup days then. And then if we get past the first 2, then we use the next 3. Is that my understanding?
I would think so.
Okay.
And if you get late into the year, the flexibility will kick in, like you get to the end of March, that your third or those days cannot be made up. You will lose your flexibility if it's a late March storm. I think everybody understands that.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna pipe in. I'm totally confused what you guys are doing. How do you expect a guy to vote on? I have no idea what you guys are. You guys are throwing days left and right, 5 here, 3 there, 2 there. How are we knowing what we're voting on?
It is hard not seeing a calendar in front of us to go over that.
I know. I mean, I don't understand Chad's motion now. How do you vote on that?
Does anyone have a calendar they can share to the screen for us? I'm not on my work computer, so.
Yeah, you should have had a calendar from last month. It was draft 1 and draft 2, and draft 1 would be the one that we're looking at approving.
We can, I think Mrs. Bussey has it. We can screen share it here, or she's looking.
I want somebody just to explain what we're voting on.
All right.
I don't want to look at something. I want to know what we're voting on. Because
Okay.
Mike, you had said, yep, Mr. Severson, that's fine.
Chad's
Well, I
gonna
don't understand what you guys are getting at.
Let
Sorry.
Chad talk there.
Okay, so the original vote was for 5 days. After you miss 5 storm days, then you make up 3 additional days in the second semester. Correct?
Yes.
So what I said was, instead of waiting till 5 storm days and then making them up, we have 3 storm days that they don't have to make up. And then on the 4th storm day, you need to start making up those days again. Does that help clear it up a little bit?
He's just changing it, Brett, from 5 days to 3 days before we have to make them up.
Do you want me to screen share the calendar at this?
So once
or not?
Once we've missed 3 days, we have to start making up days instead
Correct.
of going for 5.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm popping up the calendar here. Can you?
I see it.
Yep. So I think, Mr. Severson, what you're saying is you would list those 5 possible storm days on your calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we would list You'd list Monday, January 28th, Monday, February 15th, Friday, March 19th. And then we'd list Easter Monday, which next year is April 5th, and April 30th would be our 5 days in the second semester that we could utilize, because you can't utilize Good Friday.
Right.
So how many storm days do we list now?
We didn't make any up.
No, but how many do we put on our calendar now? Only 3, don't we?
Generally, yeah, because it's supposed to be a compilation of the last 5 years, and then there's a formula that you use. But so we've generally listed 3.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused. We want to list 5 now, and we put more time in during the day, correct?
We'd be listing 5 that possibly could use. Say if you went by the first one in January, before we hit the 3rd, it would just go the second one. It's just showing what days possibly that could be used for storm days. Is why we'd be listing 5, is what Mr. Severson's saying, Brent.
Okay.
My question though, at the last meeting, we talked about April 30th, because that's around testing time. And that was like something that teachers seemed, or Mrs. Bussey said was pretty important to have off because of the testing. Am I correct on that, or?
Our question, I think, was why we were having that day, and that's, I think, where Mrs. Bussey said that, correct. Normally, we wouldn't have that end of April day off in other calendars. Previous calendars.
So, I mean, potentially then, if we have a long winter, then they would get no days off then second semester?
Exactly.
That could possibly happen, yes.
They would get Good Friday, right?
Yeah.
They
They'd
take
get
that
their-
away
And then they would get comp day for the parent-teacher conference.
for parent-teacher. So
Yeah.
they'd get 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 days and 3
Walked uphill both ways to school in the winter every day, right? Come on, it's fine.
So when we, am I on or am I muted?
You're on.
Oh. So before they did the extra time per day and we went late or let out early, how did we make that up?
Hour for hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you went 2 hours late, you had to make 2 hours up somewhere along the line.
Yes.
And you did that 3 days in a row, that equaled a day?
Yeah. Yeah. The first storm day is always because we had enough time in our schedule, was considered a grace day. And so then you didn't make up the first day, but after that you had to make up hour for hour.
Okay, so if we cut this down to where we don't take any of these as a given day, what are we doing the 20 or extra minutes for every day?
You would
Let's
have
just
to
skip that then.
we would look at changing that, because that's why it was put in to begin with. Extend our day as a result of then not having to be required to make up those storm days, and then we don't have to ask the governor for forgiveness. Like we got a lot of it forgiven last year, and they went to this so he wouldn't have to do those things and look at all those waivers. So that's why we extended the day, so we wouldn't have to. We would have plenty of room to work with. So if we're going to make up our days, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to have as long of a day as that we got.
Mr. Wilson, it still is beneficial to have them because we could have a lot more late starts. Those still come from our flexibility.
And that's what, and you got 3.
It doesn't have to be as long, and we can still have that flexibility. Like
You're
with the
right in
flexibility
that. Yeah.
we have 19 days built up. We could still cut some of the time and still have that time in there.
That 20 minutes, was it added for the homeroom or was it added for add 20 minutes onto the each period, add minutes onto each period?
It would well, the beginning part of the day, because we started 5 minutes earlier, we ended 7 minutes later. So there's 12 of the minutes right there. The time for the homeroom came as a result of taking the minutes from the enterprise time and extending it to the class period length from 47 to 52. So that took some of that time.
Okay, so every class, every period is stretched out a little bit longer than it had in the past.
Yes.
They have more time with the teachers. Okay.
Yes.
That's what, just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yep.
I believe that everybody that the community, what I've heard is they all think that we added this 20 minutes for this reason. And I don't think that 5 days out of the school year on a bad winter is a horrible number. If that is a horrible number, then we need to skip the 20 minutes a day, in my opinion.
It's not so much you're thinking of 5 full days. Think of a really bad winter where you have to, the sun doesn't come up till 8 o'clock in the morning. You want your 16-year-old son or daughter that's just learning how to drive to be on the icy roads and those where you've driven those gravel roads where you can't tell what's the ditch and what's the road, or the bus drivers.
So we have more days that are 2 hours late. And I still don't think that's a horrible number. When we're using that's what the 20 minutes is for.
And that's what I had stated at the last meeting too, is that's how we were going to start with 2 hour late starts, then make a determination after that to whether or not we can go that day or we can't.
And that's the best way to go. But to take day or year one on this, this late start or this, it could be year 2, but to build in our calendar to say automatically we're gonna have 5 days we'll never have to make up. It's setting a bad precedent. Start off with 3 days. And if it's a really bad winter, we can come back as a school board and decide not to make up days. Can we not? I mean, are we tied to this calendar? If it says a storm day, we got to make a storm day? We have that time built into the day. But to sit there and tell everybody, we got 5 days, you'll never have to make up, we have a storm day. We start off with 3. We got a really bad winter. We end up with 9 days of storm days. We can come back as a board and say, we have the time built into the day. Let's take these flex times instead of building off right away saying 5 days and we don't have to make it up. We have flexibility. It's called flex time. Let's not tie ourselves down to 5 days and then and we may or may not use them. But then people are going to say, we have 5 storm days. We don't have to make up. So let's take a day off on this day because I don't want to work Friday. That's my opinion.
I have a sister-in-law that teaches in Minnesota, and they had the same blizzard we did in October, and they did a distance learning their second day. And my wife's like, well, why don't we have something like that? I said, I don't know if it's in place yet. It is now. I think with our flexibility, and you have that, yeah, granted, it's not the same thing, but if you're going, it's not like it is right now where you might have a blizzard on Tuesday, but you're going to be back at school on Wednesday. There's no reason that you couldn't Zoom a meeting of math and English and have that in your policy if we have a storm day and call school off. Everyone's got to be on a Zoom meeting at a certain time. That's in our handbook, and you make up the day that way. The teacher would just give out the assignment that he was going to do that day. It would be nothing that has got to be created. It doesn't have to be as long, just so they're doing something. Because we have that flexibility time, and now we're still having the flexibility time, but then we're starting to add all these days back in. And, you're talking about January, February, March of not having any days off. That's a long time. for teachers. They'll need a little time off too. And you're not giving them any breaks in that whole time if you have a bad winter. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. To go on that, Minnesota has a state approved distance learning. North Dakota doesn't. So unless they roll this out and make that possible, then we don't have that opportunity to be able to do that. So, I mean, that's Minnesota. The other part that would be difficult is those unexpected ones that go from 1 day to 2 days, because, you know, at the elementary level, those kids don't get to take those devices home with them all the time. So then how do they get those things there as far as that point? And I mean, Mrs. Bussey can speak more to that, but I mean, because we had thought about that when we met earlier this week on being able to use those. I think it was Bud that brought it up, and it just, the logistics of it would be a little difficult as far as that goes.
Okay, but our younger kids are way beyond our time too. They have 30 days built in.
Yep.
So
yeah,
not bad winter.
And I'm with you. The building, we have it built in. It's just, you know, yeah, I agree.
Mr. Severson, what is the rationale, or why have they never changed that you can't make up a day earlier? Say you have a lot of storms in October, November, why can't you make them up in maybe a day at just before Christmas break, or what's the rationale for that?
That was a state mandate. We did that 1 year, and the next year they put in the legislature, you can't make anything up in the first semester.
But is that still in there now when we changed with this flexibility?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can double check on that too, but we've been told that you can't make anything up in the first semester.
We have a motion right now for 3 days that Chad has, and a second. Any other discussion on that motion?
I think before you would go forward with that, you would have to come to a consensus on whether or not we're keeping the day the length that it is, or if we're going to shorten it. Because the few that have spoken have questioned whether or not we should keep that. So I think that would have to be clarified first.
So just to clarify, if we shorten it, we have no 3 days you don't have to make up, correct? Because we're losing all our flexibility there.
Not if you don't shorten it too much.
So instead of 20 minutes, it's going to be 18 minutes.
No, there'd be, you'd be able to cut it. You'd have to ask Mr. Wilson. He's better at that one than I am, but you could cut that time back, because we've got 19 flex days right now. So and that's at 20 minutes a day extra that we had onto our schedule.
Yeah, and essentially probably what that would mean is that we would go back to starting school at 8:30 and getting done at, what was it, 3:27, I think, before, at the high school level. Elementary still starts at 8:30 and then gets done at, what was it, 3?
They're starting at 8:20, Mr.
Oh, are they? For next year, that's what you're planning?
Well, they did this year. Students would automatically go to the rooms at 8:20.
Oh.
Some would wrap up breakfast, but teachers were starting their morning routines at 8:20.
Okay.
So, and then Deb got on and did announcements at 8:30 for the elementary side.
So it would just go from doing 19 days, getting it down to like 10 days, 9 days. I mean, if we're just doing the 5 and then making up, that's just, as long as we've got whatever we're going to set the number at covered, then we're good.
But
Question.
you're
Can I
not
ask a
building any insurance in, like Michelle said. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
was under the impression that we needed to add time to our high school.
Yep.
Am I accurate on this?
Yeah, and that's been done. That's not nothing that we would be taking away.
So, okay. I'm just confused all of a sudden. Sorry. Never mind me.
No, each class period would stay 52 minutes long.
Okay.
So then the start time, the end time, those two right there, that gives us 12 minutes. Because that's where we lengthened that part up.
Okay.
But then everything else would stay the same.
And then this would go in effect for next year,
Yes.
the shortened days?
Yep.
So they made this program to try and help so that you weren't making poor decisions, weren't making last minute, you know, should we go, shouldn't we, sending kids to school, you know, bring them to school, and then at 9:30 all of a sudden you're, oh man, how are we going to get these kids home? It seems like they've made something to try and help us, and then we're trying to cut our own throat on the other side of it by trying to limit what we're doing. You know, to me, there's never been a plan of, oh, hey, we've got all these days, we won't go to school any Fridays the second semester. I mean, that's never been a logical thought. I just would hate to see it where we're holding ourselves back for the sole purpose of just to say that we're doing that. You know, that's just on my end. You know, if it's difficult for some of the people to understand that we're doing this extra time and that's not days in their category, you know, they're the same people that are going to probably be calling and saying, why aren't we calling off school and sending kids home at noon? You know, you're never going to make everybody happy. And so, I mean, on a safety standpoint, you know, to me, it was a lot nicer just to know that you had that little bit of support where, you know, we weren't going to have to beg and plead at the end of the year to get help so that we weren't going to school till the 4th of July. You know, that's just my end on the transportation, that, you know, they made a program to help us, and, you know, that as long as it's not getting abused, that you know, we should use that to our best ability.
But we're doing that. That's what we want to do with our flexibility, is to use it for get them out early, bring them in later, that type of thing. We're not looking at getting rid of any of that flexibility. That's what we want to use. That's what it was put in for. If we get them there and it's 9:30 and we got to get them home, get them out now. Let's not try to hold them till 1 o'clock or 2 to count it as a day.
Yep.
We want to use that flexibility, and that's what we still want to use. We're just saying, if we have to call a day off, we think it's too many days not to make up at 5. That's all we're saying. We want to use that safety, and that's what we want that flexibility for safety of staff and students.
Yeah, but it doesn't, nothing adds up by, it's not by days, it's by hours. So if you take 2 hours early or 2 hours late, you know, that you still have to just equate that time no different than if you took the whole day. You know, it's all by the hour, you know, so whether you took the one whole day and then 5 half days, or, you know, it's all hourly, you know. So that'd be like saying, if we don't call off school for a full day that whole first semester, but we had, you know, a dozen late starts, you know, that time is still going to equate to the same amount of time either way. You know, it's not really the same.
But you had the contact during that day. You had the chance to give them stuff. You made contact with them. The no school days, you make zero contact with our kids.
Okay, so that brings up a question then. Are you saying that if we have a 2-hour late start we can count that as a day and not count it toward the hours to make up? Or do we?
We're only looking at making up total, we're only looking to, on this motion, to make up days that we have 0 school, complete cancellation. The other ones are flexibility.
Okay, so any late starts or early outs, we're not counting those as hours toward a day.
No.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So next year we would shorten our days some, but still have it longer to allow for
No.
flex time. Is that what I'm
We would still have
understanding?
We would still have flexibility, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Right, Mr. Wilson?
Yes. Yep.
So
if we went
how many minutes are we going to decrease our day by next year then?
I would have to sit down and pencil it out to see, based off of what you guys would end up wanting to go with. I would pencil it out to more than cover that.
So we want to decrease by 2 days. We're saying decrease by 2 days, and you have to repencil everything out for 2 days? Because we're at 5. We were going to vote on 5, and now we just want to say, you know what, let's make up after 3. Am I understanding?
Because it was believed that we were abusing the system by going with 5 days.
I don't think, Rob, we're looking at abusing the system.
No,
We're
that's
looking at
not-
what's best for kids and how much contact we want them to have.
I understand, but you heard my view on it earlier. I don't think 5 days is out of line.
I understand that. I agree. I hear your point, but you're saying we're saying that we're abusing it with 5. I don't think any of us are saying
No, that's, we
5 is
didn't want to
abusing.
abuse the program is what we talked about. That's how we stated it earlier. When we talked about it the last meeting, we said we don't want to abuse this, what we're given, this forgiveness. We don't want to abuse it. We want to make days up. My thought is we're not abusing it 5 days. I think it's a
I guess
realistic
that
number.
was my understanding, because we had 19 days built in, and we all agreed that we can't just not go 19 days and not have school. And then the question was brought up, well, what is the number before we'd have to make up? And that 5-day mark was kind of the number that was brought up, that anything after 5 was too much to miss school.
Right, and
I guess
that's what I remember too, and I agreed with that.
And that's why we
And
brought
that's-
that number, because that came from that meeting from board members. So, and when we were discussing it, because my personal view is if they allow it, why make them up? But Mrs. Bussey was like, well, this is what the board wants. Let's go with this. Okay, so that it came from you guys, that number 5. Why did we come with that number 5? It came from you guys in that last meeting that this is what they want, so we'll give them those 5 days.
Okay, you guys, that's why only 3 people voted yes. 3 of us felt the same way you are, Mr. Wilson. Obviously, us 3 were thinking the way you were. The other ones must have thought different. So either we didn't realize it right or something.
No, I'll be honest.
I'm 100% with you. The 5 days. That's what we talked about last board meeting. That's what I thought. That's why I voted the way I did.
Yeah, because with our flex time, we have 19 days built in, and we said, well, we can't miss that. And then you guys asked us as a board, well, what is too many? And we all kind of said, well, anything after 5 would have to be made up.
And I do remember that
I guess
as well. Yes.
So that's why I voted yes on 5 days, because that's what we talked about at the last board meeting. I just don't think that we should have flex time and then still have to make up all these days. It doesn't make sense to me, I guess.
That's my feeling.
Either
Is
we
it's gotta
have
give
no
on one end or
flex
the
time
other.
and make up days, or.
Okay,
And
here's
that's why we did this, 4 storm days, so.
the thing I'm looking at is everybody's tied around this 19 extra days. We still only have 180 contact days with our students. We take 5 of those away. That's 175 contact days. Doesn't matter how long the days are. I mean, yes, 5 extra minutes, but as a teacher, I don't take those 5 extra minutes and sit there and say, well, I'm going to add all this up and I'm going to get all this extra work done. It doesn't happen that way. So yeah, you have contact time. You have your class periods are longer, but that doesn't equate to actually days on your calendar. You're still only at 180 contact days. So to say you're taking 5 contact days away because of storms, and that's okay. Granted, we have days built, the hours built into the year, but that still doesn't equate down to the missing the whole day. And safety wise, 2 hours late, trust me, I drive 180 days or 180 miles a day. 2 hours later, or an hour and a half later, when the sun's up, I can actually see the road, makes a heck of a lot of difference versus beating the plows in. So that's the safety we're talking about. We're not talking about having to make up those days. Because I remember making up, you know, oh, we can't go 2 hours late because we're going to have to make up that day because we're past our grace period. That's the thing that this whole, the flex time was given to us by the state. Not just so we can have days off. And yes, I do believe we did take a day off that wasn't a scheduled day this year because we had the time built in.
What are other schools doing?
Other schools in the vocational set are making up days. They're using their flex time for safety, early outs, late starts. And at least making up 2 to possibly 3 storm days. After that, or late in the year, they're using flex time.
How many of those schools, Mike, can run no rural buses?
Well, in our district, we got Maple Valley and Litchfield all run rural buses. The only one that isn't in on that table of discussion is Valley City. So 3 of those schools are all running rural buses.
All I know on the busing end of it is those 2 hours, depending on, you know, sometimes if it's drifted, things like that, you know, I like the 2 hours where you can say, you know, okay, now I can see if I'm, you know, going to plow into this and get stuck or if I'm going to be fine compared to being in the dark. But to try and say that, oh, that 2 hours is just going to be great and the plows are going to be out. I mean, the rationale behind that is slim because we're lucky if Highway 9 gets plowed before we have a 2 hour late start, you know, and that doesn't mean anything for, you know, running 10 buses all over on the gravel and everything else. You know, those could be, you know, I've been, you know, and Rob knows, you know, it's sometimes it's 4 or 5 days later before some of these places see a plow. You know, that's on my end.
Well, and that's the nice thing too, is because with this flex time, Mr. Severson called it the night before if there's supposed to be a possible storm coming in by radar. He can call it at 8 o'clock at night and send out the alerts so that parents have the ability to say, you know what, school's gonna be 2 hours late. Let's find a plan for little Johnny and little Susie if I got to go to work, instead of waiting till 6 o'clock in the morning and then making the call. That way you don't have to worry about making those days up like we did before. Hour for hour is what we had to do before. So you always had to worry about, you get up in the morning at 5. I know Rob did that many times, driving the routes before to make the decision if he's going to go out or not. I mean, that's the nice thing about this whole flex time. You can call it the night before, and if it blew past us or nothing happened, oh well.
Keep in mind, we've done that and then had people complain that we've canceled school too early as well. So it's like Bud had said, it's kind of a no-win situation.
you're not, but I mean, it's that idea you don't have to make up that time if you did call it and there was nothing happened. I mean, it's darn if you do, darn if you don't. But I mean, the biggest thing is to have 5 days off, and that I'm still getting on this 5 days. You know, yeah, we've had, how many times have we had flooding that we sent our students to Valley City to help fight flooding, and they weren't in the classroom? I remember we did that in 99, or excuse me, 09 and 07. All right. And we also had the many times we had late storms in March and April. It's nice that you don't have to make up those days. You have to worry about coming in, you know, after graduation, or coming in at, like you said, talking to the governor and begging for permission.
Honestly, I feel like it needs to be tabled, and somebody needs to contact somebody at the state and have specific words to describe the situation we're in. Because we're on an hour now of this discussion, and it's been the same discussion that we've had every single time. So unless we bring somebody in who knows from the state level, I mean, I would be more than happy to contact Amy Kopis, throw out the ideas that are being discussed and see what she says back, or contact somebody at DPI. I would be more than happy to do that. I just feel like we can go around and around and around and still talk about the same things. Well, I mean, which is perfectly fine. If you guys want to be here till midnight, I will gladly listen, but that would be my recommendation, is to table it. I feel like emotions are high and we're not going to get very far with it.
What do you think we would gain by that?
Well,
because it's still going to amount down to how many days we want to take
we
off.
would have a resource from the state state it in words of what they know and what they would recommend. I mean, I know if I'm struggling, I'm going to seek out somebody who knows more than I do as a principal, or I'm going to seek out the Century Code laws. And so I'm going to seek out somebody who can give me advice on whether or not we're thinking totally outside the lines, and if we're crazy or not. Like,
and I've done that.
Why didn't we do that as you went back to review it then?
I've talked to them and extending our day when we first started doing this, reaching out to them, making sure that there's going to be no blowback if we're missing days, that there, no school, even if they have 10 days, they got it built into the time, is going to receive any blowback from the state and going, yeah, you guys have the time, you don't have to make up those times. This is just a local
I feel like if you've done that, then we need to bring that person in so everybody can hear the same information. Everybody hears the same information, and then we can move forward with a vote.
I think everybody understands just what JR said. There's going to be no blowback from the state. It's what we want as a board on our local decision to make how many days we like to make up.
And just to answer your question on why didn't we do that in the first place, was because the direction we felt the board gave us was 5 days, and then you go and figure this out with the storm days. That's why we never consulted anything. If we'd have known that there was going to be this discussion, we could have done that. But that was the direction we felt we had, and so that's what we went with. The motion's on the table. I think you need to vote on it.
Chad still has the motion for 3 days, and it's been seconded.
Yep. We just need to do roll call.
I guess, can I clarify something really quick? So this next year, this is 3 days, but our days are going to be shortened, but still lengthened enough to give us flex time. Is that what we're voting on?
We're voting on the 3 days. That would be Mr. Wilson's, and as they set up schedules, they want to change it. But if he does, Mr. Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, if you change that time, we still have at least 8-9 days of flex time.
Whatever you guys vote on and put in place, the schedule will reflect that and then some.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, Mr. Wilson, we could keep the schedule the same, couldn't we?
Well, the reason why the schedule came up is because there were a few board members who said, then why do we have the extended day? Why are we extending the day if we're not going to do it? That's why I got into that part.
I guess that's what I need to clarify what we're voting on. Are we voting on 3 days and then shortening our days so the kids don't start as early as they are and getting out as late as they are? Is that what's going to happen if we do the 3 days?
No, what you're voting on is just after 3 days, we start making those up. That has nothing to do with the length of the school day.
The school day discussion came after the motion was made.
So Cindy, the school day is going to stay the same as it is this year with the extra 20 minutes, but anything over 3 days we're making up.
Got it.
Okay. Lindsay, the motions for 3 days. You
Okay,
can do a
so
roll
the
call.
motion to make up 3 days after 3 days have been, or to make up after 3 days have been missed, correct?
Correct.
Chad and Lori, and we're doing a roll call. That's what
Correct.
I got. Okay. Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
No.
Lori,
Yes.
Lee,
No.
Brent,
No.
Rob,
No.
Brett.
No.
Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no's and 4 yeses.
Okay, so let's talk this through. Obviously that failed. Why
I
can't
said
we?
do 4.
No, I don't
You divide it? I don't know.
when does this, Mr. Severson, when does this calendar have to be in?
It doesn't have to be in until next fall.
Could we please get some clarification? So can we send the principals back, and I apologize, to find out what the day would be like if we did go to 3 days, how much it would shorten a day and how you guys would do it? Could you come back with a couple of solutions? A 3 day, a 4 day, and just tell us what it does to the actual day.
Didn't Mrs. Bussey just say it wasn't going to change?
The day probably won't change.
Kind of makes it sound like it might. That's the confusion here.
Okay.
They said it would only shorten if we took away those grace days. If you're still giving us 3, like, why would we shorten it? Why wouldn't we keep doing what I want to have mentor time. I want to,
I know.
We do cherish education. That's why we're in this situation. I mean.
Right, so my understanding, the day wasn't going to change.
The day wasn't going to change.
Okay. Okay.
That was what the vote was.
Right.
The vote was not about the day changing.
Right. That's what I meant. The vote's not changing, or the day's not changing. The time of the day, the length of school day is not changing with that vote.
Right. Okay.
So the issue, and it doesn't matter whether it comes back to us because it's you guys voting on it. The dilemma is there's those of you that want the limit days with the day the way that it is. The ones that are opposing are, if we're going to do that, then we shorten the day. That's where the big difference.
So they want us to shorten our day if we do the 3 grace days?
If we're not gonna, if we're accruing the added up time, then why, and we're gonna have to make up the days, then why are we going longer?
Because it's 20 minutes.
That would be something for the leadership team to discuss But we need the board to set a schedule is what we need. And then we could discuss the amount of time in the day. That doesn't need to be discussed here. We can bring that back to the board once we have that finalized. So with the schedule not being approved either one, what is your direction that you'd like us to figure out now?
Well, hold on. My opinion, I voted for the first schedule.
Yes, you did.
That's how I want it. So I'm a yes on the very first one. I was before.
So
I am
Brett,
too.
would you be a yes for the 3 days? That's why we're so confused.
No, I didn't say yes for the 3 days. I said yes for the 5.
Okay.
No.
I voted yes for your first schedule. That's my opinion. That's how I want it. I don't know why we're going back and forth. That's what we decided a month ago already. And we've talked for an hour again.
And we're going to continue talking for an hour. So
Exactly.
I feel like
I feel our administration can handle what has to happen. That's why I voted yes for the calendar. And if they can't, then I guess we need to step in then. And as what Chad said, I thought we can't change the schedule once it's been approved. Am I wrong or right?
We apparently can change the schedule because we did this year. This
Okay,
year
well, I
had
thought-
storm days. This year had storm days in it. We also took another day off. We can change the schedule. We've proven that already.
Okay, same feeling. I vote for the first one. 5 days.
I'm with Brent.
I'm the same.
Well, then make the motion and call for the vote again. Maybe you've convinced people.
Okay, I'll make the motion. We approve the very first schedule that was put in front of us tonight. And that's with the
second.
5 days.
Okay, motion's by Brent, second by Rob. 5 days. Lindsay?
Mike,
No.
Michelle,
Nope.
Chad,
No.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
No.
Lee,
No.
Oh,
Brent,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Brett. Got 3 yeses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no's.
Same as the first time.
Okay, so what did the other 2 yeses want that voted yes on the last vote? That would be Lee and Brett. What do you guys want?
I voted no both times. I think if we're going longer every day, we have 19 days built in. If we miss 19 days, we miss 19 days. We're going longer every day. Every class period is longer. There's teacher time with
So
them.
you don't want to make up 5 days even, right?
No, I don't. Why?
Well, okay,
Should have
Lee,
voted yes.
hold on now. I was
Oh,
100%
yeah.
for you. I agree with you, but the last month, that's what the board brought out is 5 days.
I know, and I said at the last board meeting, why are we making up the time then?
Well,
Why
I
do we
agree
have
with you.
time?
Yeah.
I understand it's being used for early outs and
Okay,
delayed
make
starts.
that, then make that motion. Let's see where it goes.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the calendar that's in front of us that starts the 18th, and we keep our school calendar or our school time the same as it is this year, or yeah, as it is this year, with the days off that we have, and utilize our flex time.
You're saying make up no days, no storm
No days. Yep.
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roller again, Lindsay.
Give me a second. There's lots of notes here. Okay, Mike,
No.
Michelle,
No.
Chad,
No.
Cindy,
So this is making up no days at
Making
all.
up
So
no
we could
storm days.
we could potentially have 9 or 10 days off.
Whatever the
19.
flex time would be, yes.
Then that's a no.
Lori,
No.
Brent,
Yes.
Rob,
No, that's too many.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, so we got 3 yeses and 6 no's.
I guess from my point of view, I wouldn't like to see unlimited days off. You know, I think if we're getting close, 5 might be cutting it a little close, but the flex hours are in there. I don't know that it's such a terrible thing to use them a little bit. But to put them in the schedule, I'm not sure that's good either.
That's why we count on our administration to fill us in and we go from there.
I guess that would kind of be my thought on it too, if that would be subject to some of their decisions, whether it looks like we're missing too many in a row that we need to make some up, or whether we leave some of that open. They're the ones in there every day with them. They're the ones that would be able to make that call.
I agree.
And at the last meeting, when we talked about this, did we not say like after Easter Monday, we would no longer take days off? And now we could potentially use all days? That's what I'm confused on too. We kind of said there should be a cutoff of days that we're going to make up after a certain time. And I kind of thought it was like Easter Monday.
Yeah, it was at the end of March, actually. So you only
Yeah,
have,
so
you
then,
only-
so
you only
now
have
we could
2 days in there
potentially,
anyway, so kind of, unless, you know, you take the whole going into April, it just doesn't make any sense. You got the flex time built in, you're not gonna miss 19 days. That's my feeling, but.
I guess that's why I'm confused, because last time we kind of said, yeah, after March, we wouldn't take any more days off. And after 5 days, that was too many to take off. That's what I remember our discussion to be. So I don't know. I mean, unless we would just use the January 28th, 15th, and 19th, whether we, and that's the only days we would make up after whatever day we decide is too many.
I actually would like to make a motion to table till the next meeting, because this, seriously, it doesn't have to be done right at this moment. Can we table? Make
Yep,
the
the
motion.
motion if there's a motion to table, is there a second?
I'll second. I'll make it good. Done.
Try her again, Lindsay.
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Brent.
So if we table this, then what? Who's gonna figure it out? I say, my vote's no. Let's figure it out.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Sorry, no.
Brett.
I'm with Brent. I'd have to say no.
Okay, we've got 3 no's and 6 yeses.
Okay, table till next meeting.
Can we make a suggestion here, though?
Yeah.
I'll make some calls. I'll do whatever. Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Well, I
What do you
think
want me to do?
board members, we should maybe be talking to each other, and I know maybe that's frowned upon, but one person talk to the other, can try to convince us why your way is better than our way. And I don't see the problem. I don't know why we can't come to a conclusion. So call whoever you want.
Okay,
That's the right answer.
let's try to move on. Staffing discussion. I'm not sure what that is, so who's got that?
Just basically that we're looking at keeping the current staff. We're not looking at any additions or getting rid of anybody. Mr. Wilson will have a suggestion. I guess if you want to do that now, Mr. Wilson, or should we wait before we talk about that?
Do it now. You're on mute.
My choice would be to wait.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So that'll go on next month too?
Yep.
Okay. Spring activities, you got prom and graduation next.
Okay, the question would be with prom, do we want to postpone it definitely or cancel it? We'll start with prom.
Anybody have thoughts on prom?
I guess I'll weigh in because I'm on the prom committee. I say if school's not going to resume, it gets canceled. For me personally, I feel trying to last minute try and plan a prom during the summer when you have other sports going on, weddings, all of that sort of thing. I just don't see how we can get all those kids back together and make it work and have the parents support to chaperone. The junior class does raise the money, and I think that something needs to be done with that money if prom is canceled. I don't think it just gets rolled into the account for next year. And my vote would be to spend that on prizes to give to the kids, which I already kind of said in an email prior, but that was from a parent standpoint speaking. So I guess that's my thoughts on it.
What about anybody else's thoughts on prom? Because what Cindy was talking about, that's the post-prom, that is volunteer type stuff. That isn't school part of it, but the prom is an activity, school activity. Anybody have thoughts on prom?
We asked Purcell to join us for this because he's been communicating with the kids.
Okay.
So Purcell, can you hop on? I lost you, so.
I'm here. So yeah, maybe I'm biased towards hosting it, seeing as I've been planning it all year, but I sent out a survey. I talked to just the junior class the first time, and there wasn't a reply from that class that said we don't want to have it. They've all put in a lot of hours. Obviously, the junior class parents here, you know that they donated time, money, supplies, etc. There's kids who already have their gowns, their tuxes, their all that stuff. I mean, what I'd hate to see happen is for all that to go to waste. It's a waste of money at that time. I sent out a survey here the other day to all of my classes, which isn't quite everybody because I don't have every single student, but I've got a majority of them. And I've got 40 some odd replies here. And what I asked them was a list of dates. I gave them a week by week choice, and they picked what week would work best for them, or weeks if there were any. Or they could write other and then just say what dates, they could do. And it's a pretty even split. There was 10 or so replies that said anytime works for us. There was a bunch of replies that, I mean, it's so evenly spread. The only time where it doesn't work for most of the replies was the 4th of July week. Otherwise, I mean, and granted, that's taken a small sample population of who I have. I mean, from what I've gathered from them and from the seniors who plan on attending is they don't want to lose it. Whether or not the rest of the kids show up at this point, I mean, it's a personal choice. I think you host it, and whoever chooses to be there is there. Those who can't make it, or those who have a conflict or whatever, that's unfortunate. But I mean, I think that would be the same as if we were to host it on the normal time and they had a conflicting, schedule for that day. Because I mean, the day we picked this year was originally April 25th. That was also state speech But when we went around and we polled people, it was the most convenient weekend for the most people, but there were still people who couldn't make it, so they had to make a choice. But the way I look at it is there's been money spent that can't be gotten back. There's been plans made. And I mean, what we hate to do is just see all that just essentially be wasted. I mean, that's what it is at that point. I've talked to Anita Superior. She's kind of headed up the parent side of the whole, I don't know, chaperoning, whatever they do, post-prom, et cetera. And from, what she's gathered, what she's talked about is there's going to be enough support. This class isn't like last year's class. We don't need 40 chaperones. I mean, we can get by with 5, 6. I mean, I think there's plenty of people. Last year we had like 3, and that wasn't enough. That was myself included. There was only 2 parents who volunteered, at least for the day of. I know I've talked to Bud here about it won't be in the gym. If it's after the day they wax the floors, that's fine. We can, like we always do, we can make it work in the commons if we have to. We can set it up in there. I mean, it's a big thing. I've talked to seniors, they want it. I mean, it's their last one. And all the juniors, obviously, they want it probably more than anybody because they put in the hours this year. So it's just that I know last time I think you talked, it was to be canceled if school was delayed past April. And what I hated to see was a cancellation, but so much as I'd rather see a postponement. That's just kind of where I stand on that. I'd rather see it happen, period, rather than not happen at all, even if everybody can't make it. I mean, and that's just the choice that they have to make of what's more important to them. So I would host it in the hands of everybody else to decide.
And I feel if we do go into the summer, this date needs to happen now because yes, it was April 25th, but I mean, to be prom is kind of like a wedding. It's scheduled way in advance where everybody kind of knows about it. So, I mean, are we waiting until June to say, okay, in 2 weeks, we're going to throw a prom together? That's kind of what my issue is. If we're going to allow it to go into the summer, we need to decide on a date now. So parents like me who were planning on chaperoning and doing food, because some of those parents might not be available that originally said they were going to be helping out.
Yep. No, I would agree. You're going to have to set a date prior. I mean, you can't just host it spontaneously. But like I said, I'm looking at my results for my survey now. That first week right after school, May 22nd, 30th, and granted, this is all dependent on what the state decides to do. I'm feeling sooner rather than later. Maybe that's just me. But otherwise, like I said, it's from all the results that I pulled, basically the beginning of June was the highest. And then after that, it's pretty even keel across the rest of the summer. And I pulled them from May 22nd through August 1st were their choices of dates. So, I mean, I think the ones who answered are the ones who want to show up anyway. And I mean, that's just where it's at. But if you're going to pick a date or choose to host it, yeah, you'd have to do it soon. But I don't know how you'd be able to do that without them saying you can, until that date comes. So I don't know what we do with that.
So quick question, how late would you allow it to go?
As
Like,
far
say,
as a date?
Would August be a deadline? How long are you willing to want this to be postponed till?
I mean, I feel like if we get into August, then you're getting into those seniors have moved on. I mean, they're off to college, or off to wherever they might be at that point. So getting into August might be late. I guess I can't say for certain. I had one senior, she said that she would come back even if she was already in college to go to this. So, and there are people who are in college who do come to the prom. So, personally for me, I have a few dates planned in the summer where I won't be available, but as long as it doesn't fall on those days, I'm good to do it whenever. I mean, for me, it's I just like to party, I guess. So for me, it's a non-factor as far as the date is concerned.
And then I have another question. Has anyone talked to other schools what their plans are for prom? I guess my question is, okay, so we have a student, I'm gonna throw Kate out there because his date goes to Valley City. And so what happens if everyone's doing proms in the summer and they fall on the same date and you have kids from different schools? How would that work?
Then Kate goes with her because she gets her way.
It's been brought up.
But then I'm chaperoning and I can't go to the prom. I got to see at
As far as that goes, I don't know. I mean, as we do it now, we don't commune with all other schools to determine when they're hosting their events. We host our own, and that's, I mean, it was brought up a couple years ago. Why don't we get together with all the schools in the area and host one big one? You know, each school chips in some money towards that event, and then it rotates, and you're not stuck buying stuff every year. And that was shot down immediately. So, I mean, I don't know.
But I guess in April, go ahead.
In every single principal meeting that we have and superintendent's meeting, I think it's brought up, and no schools have really made a decision because nobody knows what is going on. Plus, they were waiting for the high school athletic association to make a decision. Well, they just continuously postponed it, so everybody's kind of in the same boat. If you guys make a decision, you would probably be the first group to do that, and then we can share that at the next meeting, right, Mr. Severson?
Yes, we can.
I like to be a trendsetter. We can do that.
I guess I'd rather do that and do it as early in June as possible. I just feel the later in the summer we go, anything after the 4th of July, I just feel like that's getting too late.
Right.
So my personal feeling, if it goes into the summer, it should happen in June.
And I want to just say, I think it's great, Nate, that you're totally passionate about the kids and what they're getting. And that is what we're here for. So I agree that I think we make a motion to postpone prom, not cancel it, postpone it, and hopefully have it happen before the 4th of July. Does that work?
I said that was my initial letter as of the last meeting. Was I didn't want to see it killed. I've put too much time in. They've put too much time in. Even the junior parents, they chewed my ear off too much for me to let it slide. So I just had to not let it go. At least not without trying.
So what I'm hearing is we should just leave it as postponed indefinitely and work from there.
At least until they, I guess we can't until the state decides that.
Correct.
Right. So until that day, yeah. And I guess if in the event that it were to get past July, at least that gives us some leeway. If it gets into July and you opt that it's too late at that point, that's fine. But at least it gives you some more time than to say we're done already.
So I think if we just leave it postponed indefinitely, you kind of know what our parameters are there. And I think that's great. You're going to keep working at it, Nate. Everybody okay with that? Just leave it postponed indefinitely?
Table it till next meeting and we'll know, hopefully we know more what's going on.
Does that work, Nate, for you?
Works for me, but I expect to see you all there then.
Okay.
Sure thing.
Graduation. Any thoughts on that yet?
Yeah, graduation, we just talked, unless we are going to do it virtually, as long as this executive order is in session, we cannot have public or students in our building. So if we're going to, right now, if we're going to leave it for the date it's scheduled for, it would have to be done virtually. If he lifts the order, then obviously we can continue. But at this point, it's either virtual or postpone that indefinitely till we know more.
Okay, so we could table this one too and discuss it more.
Yep.
Okay.
If I may, just on behalf of the kids, because they asked me about this too, and I don't have the answers for everybody on those two. They want to have it in person as well. Obviously, but just so we know, that's something that it's more right, I think, than anything.
I think that's the ideal thing. We want to try to celebrate this the best we can. Yes.
Could we do something like outside, like at the Wimbledon football field or something like that, where it's big open space, we can set people out far enough and just do something like that? Because it's not in the building, open space. I don't know what the guidance would be from school board or from state on that, but that's an idea. I know it's inclement weather, it's North Dakota, you never know what's going to happen from one minute to another, but something to think about.
Okay. we'll get more on that as we move on, I think, for that one. New business, we're gonna move there to school board election discussion. I'll turn that to Lindsay after a bit, but I know there's some things we gotta do. We gotta do our random picks for the ballots. We need to decide if it's gonna be mail-in, all mail-in, and also we need to pick judges. I mean, you had a webinar yesterday, I think, Lindsay. So can you touch us up more what we need to go in this area?
Yes, so on the webinar yesterday, it basically is being highly encouraged to go the absentee ballot route. It's not required, but they're really suggesting it. We just would need a motion to do that. There's no resolution or anything required. A motion with a roll call vote. From what I've seen on the business manager listserv, everyone that I've seen has said they're going to absentee only. The Secretary of State's office is working to send out absentee ballot applications to all voters in the state. But they don't have an exact date of when that's happening yet because it's like 600,000 of them and they're working with a printer to try to get addresses and everything. It's a large undertaking. But when those are sent out, our county auditor would be required for anyone that marks them that they want their school election done by absentee, they would have to provide that to us. Since we don't hold our election with the county election, we're a week sooner, we likely might not get some of those ballots in time. So they have suggested to those of us that are on that schedule to put ballots out throughout the community. Or obviously we'd have to plaster Facebook, newspapers, everywhere. They can download the application online. They can take a picture of it with their phone and email it to me even. It doesn't necessarily have to be mailed. And then as far as the actual voting ballots go, they have suggested Dropbox locations throughout your community, which in our community, I don't know how we would easily accomplish that because there are so many communities. I really don't know because my thought when they were talking about it was, well, maybe we could set up something at the post office, and then they said post offices are not allowed to be used because their Dropbox box location requires a stamp. So I've thought about that one and I really don't have a good answer. I know that a couple of schools have decided to purchase drop boxes that they're just attaching to their school. They're also recommending that all of these drop boxes get checked once per day. I would spend my entire day driving the district checking drop boxes if that was the case, because they all have to be dated. Yeah, so that's kind of what I know. I mean, they can easily mail them to the school. My suggestion maybe would be to provide a drop box location at the school. You can get them on Amazon for like, I don't know, under $30 or so. There was one that another school ordered that was about 25. It's just a white box with a slot in the top and a key to unlock it. We still do have to have 4 election workers. The date and time for the absentee ballots to be submitted. NDSBA was very definitive in that the deadline is postmarked the day before the election or delivered by 5 p.m. the day before the election. But now there's been some discrepancy on that. And so I'm not sure what the answer is. We haven't gotten any further communication besides 5 p.m. the day before the election. And so the election workers would have to count the ballots by starting at 7 p.m. the day of the election. I think that sums it up.
So we also need to start the first thing we need to do is draw or whatever.
Yep.
rank.
So I'm going to do the draw for the position on the ballot. The only way I could think of to do this was to use a website called random.org, and I have a list of Cindy, Michelle, and Brett typed in, and I'll share my screen and we'll sort it. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so can you guys see that random.org and then a list with Cynthia Christensen, Michelle Elston, and Brett Fair?
Yep.
Okay, so then down here there's a button to hit randomize, so I'm going to do that. And so it gives me 1 is Michelle, 2 is Cindy, and 3 is Brett.
Okay.
And I'm going to
So that's how it will appear on.
so I can get a copy of it. Okay.
Okay, so that's the first part. We need that for the ballot.
Yep.
Now we need to decide or make a motion if we want to do it all mail-in ballot.
I make
Correct.
a motion to do absentee ballots only with the drop box at the school.
Okay, is there a second?
Who was
Okay.
the second?
I will second, Michelle.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
Yes.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad.
Yep.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay. So
Then
the
we would need a
next thing,
Yep, go ahead.
I was going to go over the election officials, or was there something else you wanted?
Nope, that'd be the next thing.
Okay. So for election officials, a lot of people don't really want to participate, not knowing what the status is of the coronavirus pandemic, and considering they're all elderly, at-risk people for the most part. So I have 4 confirmed yeses. One of those is definitely if the coronavirus doesn't subside, they do not want to participate. So my 3 for sure yeses are Rolene Richards, Mary Plum, and Karen Luke. I don't know how you say her name. I'm sorry. And then, okay. And then my yes, as long as this pandemic doesn't get worse, is Donna Harstead. And so then in this webinar yesterday, they suggested looking at our essential staff and seeing if any of those people would be interested. And so in our essential staff, we have 2 people that live in the district for sure. And so I reached out to Alyssa Albright, and she willingly said she'd be happy to be an alternate if we needed her. And I reached out to Bud Cruff, and he said if he absolutely had to, that he could help me out.
Okay.
So we have 6 people to pick from.
Okay, so we would need a motion to accept those as judges.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
So
Who was that? I
hold on.
missed
If it's, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we have absentee, we drop them off, we still need judges?
Yes,
To count them? Is
it
that what it is?
requires 4 of them. Yep, we will have to meet sometime on election day
Okay.
to
Gotcha.
count the ballots.
Okay.
Okay, Chad made the motion. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Lindsay?
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Anything else we hadn't covered, Lindsay? For
That
elections?
was everything I had.
Okay. Distance learning plan discussions on there. Somebody want to touch any more on that, or?
Unless somebody has questions or whatever, I think we've covered it pretty well.
Any questions? Okay. Spring sports pay track.
Not only track, I forgot we had elementary basketball and then speech. Do you guys want to base it on how many practices they had versus what their salary was and work it out as prorated? Is that kind of what I heard the last meeting? But I just want to make sure that's what we want to do. If we're done now, I mean, if nothing comes back in, we prorate it. We'll do that at the end of the school year. But is that everybody's feeling? Is you'd like to prorate those salaries?
Well, my feeling, I'll give you mine. I think if we're paying everybody else, we should pay coaches. They're hard enough to get. I think maybe they can just put out something, maybe looking at what you could do in case we come back, maybe a little practice schedule or something. I think if we're paying other staff, we should pay them also. That's just my thought. I think we should pay them.
I agree. I think it's the same way as the bus drivers. They're hard enough to come by, you know. But I like Mike's idea. If he can do some kind of workout or something like that. I thought I read that somewhere that you were having some of the coaches having the students do work or the athletes do workouts or give them ideas on how to get healthier, get better.
If I may, for a minute. I don't think that we're allowed to, by the NBHSAA, do that. I can't, at least to my understanding, go out and say, do this, do that, you know, and structure something where, you know, hey, you can do this. If they want to volunteer to do it and they want to come in and attempt things, then I think they can. But I can't explicitly give them, you know, hey, this. They can set it up on their own. They can use the equipment per se, I suppose, upon signing an agreement, but I can't say, you know, here, use this, do this. I mean, I think there's a gray area there, but that's more on Mr. Simpson's part, I think. You'd have to.
I wasn't necessarily talking about, you know, like, I know you're looking at track probably, right, like throwing shot or throwing disc or something like that. But I'm thinking just more like, you know, simple weight training or something to get healthy, something to get better, you know, get stronger and you know, some kind of just like you do in the summer practice where they do weightlifting or some of that. I know they can't come and do weightlifting because all the gyms are closed, but you know, something to that effect where you would have the kind of program where they could go run a mile or set something up, because get active is the biggest thing, and it helps mentally too to get out there and do something physical instead of laying in your room all day and staring at four walls. So.
Yeah, I think it's just something to just put out and say, hey, if we do come back, once you're ready, because it's going to have a very short season, so maybe here's what you can do to keep in shape, you know, type thing.
I agree with you, Mike. I think pay them, and they're hard enough to get, and them guys and gals put in the effort. They'll come back next year if we keep this up.
Yeah, my thought is we pay them.
Mine too.
Purcell, do you need any more volunteer coaches?
Just you.
We already asked you to volunteer, bud, and you wouldn't do it.
Oh,
Football.
man, I missed out.
Okay, well, I know the coaches are going to appreciate that because that was one of their questions early on. And maybe Mr. Purcell can touch base with you and we can, you know, decide what you want to do as far as that goes. And then you can reach out to Mr. Schaefer and Jasmine and maybe get some things out to your people. And I'll visit with Tori about what she can do different for elementary basketball. And then I'll talk to Tina. I know she had started back in December, so she's got quite a bit of her season in. But I'll visit with her and we can get something worked out. But I appreciate that you want to keep as we talked about, keeping our employees whole. That's great that you're going to pay them for their time and appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, you especially got to pay Tina because she's coach of the year.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely got to pay her.
Well, I think that it can't be overstated on you guys doing that. How awesome that is that you guys are willing to do that. Because, I mean, we talked about it earlier, and, you know, as a former coach, I could totally understand if you guys came back and said, well, there was no season, so we're not going to pay you. But the fact that you guys want to, that's awesome.
Much appreciated.
Do you need any motion, or we're just moving ahead that way, or what do you
Nope,
need?
we'll just go ahead and do that because they're actually there, you know, I mean, you would have to, I would say you could probably, if you wanted to not, you know, prorate it, I think that would be one way you could make the motion if you want to prorate it. But if you're going to pay them their regular salary, you know, they're not really under contract, but they're, you know, we've got an agreement with them that they're coaching. So we can just pay it out at the end of the year. And I'll talk to Lindsay about, you know, if some of them, I know we talked about that earlier, but we'll get that squared away on the payments.
Okay. Okay, good to go there.
Yep.
Other thing, Lindsay and I have talked about a little bit, and maybe you have too, but teacher contracts, we want to get them rolling. We've always made motions to send them out. So who wants to discuss that? Lindsay, have you checked on ways we can do it at this time, or what have you come up with?
Because typically, I guess they are hand delivered and they sign for them to say that they've received them, is my understanding. So in researching options, the things that came to my mind were mail them out certified mail because they would have to sign for them, or do DocuSign. So I checked with Melissa on DocuSign and we do not have that capability, but she said that there is an Apple product that they can use called Preview, I believe is what she said, and they can sign them and return them to me. So my thoughts would be that I would send like a general email to staff saying what day they're going to go out, and that there's going to be an email to each of them requesting a return receipt. They would have to check the return receipt so I could print that, and then they would sign the contract using Preview and return it to me.
Okay.
And if Melissa understands that differently, maybe she can chime in too.
Nope, you're totally correct. And all of the teachers know how to do an electronic signature now, as we addressed it in EdChat.
Okay, perfect. So all we would need then is a motion to turn out our teacher contracts.
You want to include a date on that you send them, or so that, because they got 2 weeks. So do we want to put a date that they're due?
Well, I think once we go out, we have to have them out by May 1. So when would you want to send them out? Then they have 14 days to get them back.
Yes.
Am I right in that?
Yes.
My goal is to have them done midweek next week. I'd like a week to work on them because I've never done them before and I do not know what questions or problems I'm going to come across. So.
Well, I think what we just need a motion is to have them out before the May 1st deadline. And once that's in, you're going to have your dates when they've going out, and just tell them they need them, have them back in the 14 days.
Okay.
So we still need a motion to turn out teacher contracts.
I make a motion to turn out teacher contracts.
I'll second it.
Okay. Lindsay, roll call.
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, next is career counselor. The only reason that's on there, and Mr. Volpe is still on, he can tell us why we need it. I'll tell you. We need to make a motion that if he advertise for that we do want the 5 days. We've talked about it, but we have no motion in effect to turn to the vocational center. Is that right, Derek?
I just need documentation that is your wish, is to advertise for that position to be filled for next year.
So we have talked about that. We just need an official motion and a vote so we can move forward with that at the vocational center.
I make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Rob. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Lindsay.
Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, next you have on the agenda staff wage discussion. So is that something that we need to look at tonight, or is
No,
it?
it's not. It's just something that, as far as, I don't know how you want to do it this year, because usually you guys met with a couple of the ancillary. They talked about what they want to do and you guys brought back a recommendation. So
Okay.
if you guys, as a negotiating committee, if you want to talk about that, how you guys want to accomplish that this year, that would be in your court. The other one would have to be the administrative contracts too. So you guys will have to discuss those. So if you
Yes.
want to do both those at the same time, just talk about how you want to do it, and then just get back to us and let us know what you want.
Okay. When we do that, Lindsay or whoever got, could you send out to everybody where everybody is right now? Because that would be beneficial, because that's what everybody's going to ask, you know, kind of a schedule where our pay is right now. So we have that paper with us.
Yep, I can send that.
Okay, thanks.
So this section is not about paying our ancillary staff during this lockout?
No, that is part of the plan. If you want to change that, then you'd have to make a motion on it. The recommendation from the governor has been that because they're not cutting any of our state funding, any of our payments, that his recommendation is we keep everyone whole and that we pay out everybody.
Okay, and I totally agree with that. The only thing, and it's so late at night, I even hate to start this, but it would have been nice for us to have known as a board that this was in the plan that was given to the state. It was kind of, it felt kind of like we were bushwhacked when we saw this. It kind of not fair to tie our hands to something financially and not let us know that you've done that. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't like the way it happened.
And I could address that just because of the fact that our plan would probably have not got approved had we not kept our people whole. That was part of the governor's recommendation, and when they looked through the plans, that was part of what they were looking for before they would approve.
Okay, but why?
Maybe we could have got back to you and told you what we were going to do but yeah.
Because we had that special board meeting, and that would have been a perfect time to tell us that that was in this plan. And so we could have known about it ahead of time. I just don't like to be surprised like that. I just don't think that was fair to us as a board.
Because Mike, you also said that we would have to make that decision, and we hadn't done that yet. I think that's maybe where Lori's going with that a little bit.
I agree, and that what I was thinking more on the lines that you would have to make the decision not to, but I guess you're right. I mean, I apologize for that. That should have been something we should have brought forward.
I have one question on this whole, like I say, I think we all should pay everybody, and that's what we've talked about, from coaches to everything else. But we have subs and stuff in this school district that are now applying for unemployment. Aren't we addressing our subs if we're paying everybody else?
I guess I'm not sure how you would pay subs unless it was just time that they were scheduled between now and the end of school year. I don't know how we would do that.
Well, I'm not sure either, but I mean, if we're addressing everybody else, that's one segment we haven't done, and if we aren't bringing those people in, they're applying for unemployment, and we're also not bringing other ones in, they maybe are better off going on unemployment.
Who's
Because
filing?
they're going to make more.
Who's filing for unemployment?
I'm not going to list names, but I know we've had some in the office that have. Lindsay, just answer the question. I don't want to put names out there, but have you got letters to apply for unemployment for subs?
To date, I've received 2 unemployment notifications.
Okay.
And well, I know for a fact that, I mean, Ms. Severson and I talked about this. They're winning those disputes, but like, how do you prove how many days that they're going or that they're working?
I know.
Well, couldn't you? Well, I don't know. You could prove. You could probably take a percentage of what they've done in the past or something. I don't know. I'm just saying, if we're paying everybody else, we haven't addressed that group.
Well, I still have all the blue sheets that were supposed to be used for subs and teachers' time off, and the subs are listed on those sheets. We could pay them off those sheets.
I'm just throwing it out. I don't know what procedure we could use, but I'm saying we're paying everybody else, but we're having subs applying for unemployment.
I have no answer for that because, like I said, we got a word that substitutes were applying for unemployment and they were getting benefits. But I don't know how much we'd have to pay them to keep them from, going for unemployment.
I will just say what I filled out on the paperwork for the one sub. She has not worked for us since 2018. So the paperwork I filled out there stated that, and that based on the information that was entered in SUI prior to me being here, she no longer is a sub for us. So the other person is a current sub. I just stated the last date that she was paid. And that's basically it. That particular application did state a dollar amount that we could be responsible for. I have not heard any information back from on any of it.
Yeah. So just a question I brought up that haven't addressed that area. And if we want to,
Are some of these subs also working in other districts?
I called Mr. Severson after this was brought up on the administrator's call, and I'm like, how can they do that? And that's the thing, is some subs are subbing in multiple districts. So, I mean, I was astonished to hear this. And I do think like Rydell Samuelson was in a long-term subbing position for Mrs. Bollingberg. He was kind of reliant on that. He just graduated. I went up to him and I said, please will you long-term in music? I mean, he's been a phenomenal sub. I could call him in the morning and he comes in. Like in that case where he was scheduled as a long-term sub, he was probably relying on that income. I totally agree that he should, like if you guys are willing to compensate him for it, that is one candidate that should be compensated because he had a long-term commitment anyways. As far as like,
why did his long-term commitment change?
When did it change?
Why did it change?
COVID. We shut down school. He was there up until the day we shut down.
Correct, but I mean, was he going to stay on? If you say music, was he going to stay on longer for Mrs. Bolenberg, or was there a day he was going to be done?
He was going to stay on for Mrs. Bolenberg through her leave. So I'm not quite, Deb probably has some.
I think that it was like probably around the 10th of April, somewhere in that ballpark, just off the top of my head.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right, what we figured, yes.
So are we paying 2 for that time, or is that what you're asking, Mrs.
No,
Bussey, or what?
Stopped paying him because now, I mean, just from the capability of working from home, Mrs. Bollingberg has been posting her required assignments to her students. She's been checking into staff meetings. She's been doing all of our at-home requirements. So we just assumed that since there was no school, that as a substitute, you kind of expect that, right? Like, yeah. So, which breaks my heart, but like I just want to know, how is the state monitoring it? Because I know that school districts are losing this battle right now, and I'm astounded that it could happen. But thankful that you guys are willing to compensate. That's my personal recommendation is, yes, I mean, our subs that are constantly coming in and constantly saying yes to us, okay, I get it, but Rydell was on a long-term subbing contract, so.
Personally, Rydell was the first person that came to my mind too. And I secretly have been hoping that he's an application that I would receive for unemployment, so.
But the thing is most people think that they would be able to collect unemployment because they don't have a signed contract through the school.
But as far as I'm concerned and what I've been hearing is they're not turning anybody down.
No, they're not. And school districts have fought the claims and they're losing. So.
And the fighting of the claims came before COVID did. So that was, I mean, this was done before we were in this situation. So if they were approving them before, they're more than likely going to approve them now.
Another thing on the claims that kind of concerned me is that the date of the claim, and I don't have it in front of me, it's somewhere in this mess, but the date of the claim, like expiration, was like a year from the date it was filed, which to me I'm not in agreement with either, because they would not be subbing over the summer. And I did state that in my argument, you know, that they would only be potentially working for us through May 17th or whatever the last day of school is.
What? Wasn't that day even into next year? Lindsay?
Yeah, it was a year from their filing. They filed
Yes.
of March of 2020. The date
So it goes to March of 2021.
In my past experience with unemployment, because I've dealt with seasonal labor before, generally they send out like a quarterly survey, and you have to mark on there different information of if they worked, if they would have worked. I don't recall off the top of my head exactly all the questions, but there are things that they send out periodically. And if they were paid in another school district, I believe if they file the paperwork correctly in the other school district, that would trigger a notification at unemployment to send us one of those surveys.
So for the subs, couldn't we just come up with a kind of an average of kind of what they'd be, I don't know how to say, what you think we'd have to pay out for subs, and just kind of give them something if they're not getting unemployment and stuff?
And
to show good faith. And
one sub has reached out to me and said, you know, if your teachers feel swamped, I could get on to Zoom with students too. So I thought that was extremely nice, but.
My question is, and I don't know the answer, if we pay them something, are they still going to be able to file unemployment?
Yeah.
That's the next thing.
I would think they wouldn't. That's why I say we just either that, or we tell the other subs that option is there.
Correct.
I think we got to treat them all the same.
I think Rydell should be taken into a higher consideration because he was a long-term sub.
And that's what I thought, well, maybe he should have filled out that time till if it was April 10th or whatever before we brought the other one back, because apparently she was on leave. Is that what was going on there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could go back and figure out when we quit paying him when Bolingbird came back, and we could finish out his pay if that's something you guys would agree with.
So basically, he'd have been done on that Friday, March 13th. And then if she was scheduled to come back, if you said April 10th,
yeah,
those would be the things that we could pay him for, if that's what you guys, if that's your wishes.
When did Mrs. Bolenberg come back that we would have not needed?
Well, she came right back on that Monday. I mean, that Tuesday. She started reaching out to students when we asked teachers to reach out to students over the online. She started posting videos when we required them to post videos once we got the go ahead from the state. So wasn't expected to be back until after April 10th.
Right. Correct.
So I think the correct day that Rydell would have worked through is the 9th, because the 10th is actually a holiday.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So then is Rydell the only one that would fall under this, or are we opening a can of worms if we do this?
Didn't we have a long-term sub in place for Lisa when she went?
Jerry Haugen.
So she was set to work for, I don't know how long.
For the end of the year. Close
so
to.
But the only difference is that Rydell had already been subbing for a great length of time, where Lisa only took 2 days off, and Alicia was off quite a long time.
Right, but Jerry Haugen was planning on subbing
Yes.
From the time the baby was born to the end of the year, period. I mean, that's the precedent. If we're going to pay one long-term sub, we're paying them both, because she had that set up in her schedule, in her time frame. I'm going to be working at the school those days. So I don't think it matters if someone put a few days in or lots of days in or not.
And I agree, Michelle. And if you guys do decide on something, you should decide on it for all of our subs, because we talk about not being able to get subs consistently anyway. So, but moving forward, Mr. Severson, maybe you could answer this. Is there a way that we could have our subs sign a contract that would state some similar guidelines, like you do not have a teaching contract throughout the school, so technically we're not letting you go and you can't get unemployment from us? Like, what are the guidelines for that? Like,
that would be something we'd have to discuss with probably an attorney, because I don't believe you can have them sign that and then say they won't ever apply for unemployment.
And then what happens to the ones that have already applied?
Yeah, because
that I've
we've already
filled
got
out?
some applying. I think we got to treat them the same. So if we've got some applying now, maybe we should just address the other one, say, then you can apply for unemployment if you like.
Okay. Okay.
Too bad we didn't think of that avenue, I guess, that nobody ever thought of that side of it. I know they didn't. I didn't even.
I think it's.
But we probably need to talk to them, because they don't know if they can get unemployment. Probably they probably felt they didn't qualify. Correct?
Possibly, yes. But I don't know if they don't qualify. It sounds like they're pretty much taking on everybody.
Right.
Lindsay, am I right? There's no fight in this new format, right?
Right.
There's no
Usually when you get an unemployment claim, there's like a list of fact-finding questions that they ask. They want to find out if it was separation due to some type of misconduct, or if the person willingly quit. There's no fact-finding questions at all. It's just the letter stating who, the amount you could be charged, the dates, and if you wish to argue it, you can do so on the back of the page and then sign it.
My fear is this is opening a can of worms. I mean, anybody could suffer us for a day and then turn around and file unemployment on us. Like,
That's how all this started, was that it was in a school district where the person subbed once before Christmas and then was done, went to Florida for the winter and never subbed again, and filed unemployment while they were in Florida and won.
but even if there's no COVID pandemic going on, we could have somebody sub in our building, turn around and file unemployment on us.
Yes.
So.
But we would have more of a chance to fight it without the COVID.
I mean, I would hope so, but if they're granting for 1 day of subbing, I guess my mind is just blown with this, so.
So who want to contact the subs?
I can contact the primary elementary subs, that's fine. I don't do that.
The principals will contact the people that they use for subbing to let them know that they can apply for unemployment?
Yes.
I think so. They have the option if that's what it is. So they're all treated equally.
Okay. JR, Danielle, you hear that?
Yep.
Perfect.
Was there anything else? Lori, do you have anything? You talked about this was more than just the wage thing, or do you have anything else?
No, I'm tired.
Okay. So in your plan then, Mike, are you gonna try to bring some people in for these, when we do this pay for everybody? Or are you gonna work some schedules? Is that what I got out of all this tonight?
Well, we're trying to do that. See, that's what we've been able to get by with the kitchen the way it is. But if we get any more, we're going to have to rotate that. So then we will do the rotation and bring different people in on different days. And then, like I said, the bus drivers, we've been utilizing them on Fridays on every other Friday to haul all of our supplies and stuff. So, we're trying to do that. And then Bud and I will sit down and discuss how we're going to work out the custodial type thing coming into cleaning.
Okay, so then we're addressing everybody else, okay?
Yep.
You got an open enrollment application, Lindsay?
I have it.
You have it, Mike? Okay.
Yep. It's for the Amdahl family.
Okay. Coming in, is that what it is?
Coming in, yep.
We just don't have the formal the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that we're getting the rest of the paperwork together.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that open enrollment application.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second. Roll call, Lindsay.
I missed the second. Who was the second? I'm sorry.
I was Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle.
I think my computer glitched a minute. Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Who's that cute little blonde? Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, that's approved. We've gone through school meals. Do we need anything more on that, or where are we gonna turn more, ask for more out there, or are we gonna try to do more, or what's your plan then, Mike?
Well, I talked to Deb Eglin today at School of Food and Nutrition, and she said what we're doing is fine. She said the only thing she would do differently right now is ask that maybe send out another notice saying, being that school's been out for this amount of time, is anybody interested? And then if there is, then we work on a schedule to get them meals as well.
Okay. Anybody have questions on meals? Any more questions? We've gone over some, but.
I just want to let you know, Mike, that Lisa did get a call from Kim. They set up a schedule where they're going to start bringing in the other ones, because Kim was afraid, because I came back from Africa. She thought Lisa was under quarantine too, because I was, so she didn't initially ask Lisa right away. So
Yeah, that's what she indicated. Yep.
Yeah, because if we need more help in the kitchen, we've got paras, we've got other people we can put in there. Because what are the paras doing right now? Are they touch base with, hooked up with other teachers, or what are they doing?
Well, Patty's husband is extremely high risk, so she's not comfortable coming in, but I've asked her to meet with kids over Zoom as needed.
Okay.
Annie has been trying to get connected with students. I'm working on that too. And then, Emily has been doing the driving and the stuff as far as meal delivery and helping with material drop off and pickup.
Okay. So what about, who do we have? Patrick too? What other para do we have? We got Mrs. Hovland, we got Patrick. Who all we got for paras?
Patrick would be the only other one.
Isn't Anna one of our paras?
Yeah, and she just talked about Ann.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anne has been driving the buses for her part, but she's been trying to connect with students over Zoom too. It's just hard when she's not a teacher in their classrooms to get them the information they need for the login codes and stuff. So we're working on that.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien has been connecting with kids over Schoology too, because Tina has worked with him on that. So.
Okay. Nothing else there. Correspondence?
Just a couple things under that one. Just so you're aware, the Wimbledon newsletter had an article out on the COVID-19, and we're on the front of it. So if you get a chance, you can take a look at that article. And then I visited with Amy Darby this morning, and she greets all of you board members. She said she doesn't miss it, especially at this point in time. She is glad she's retired. They got back 2 weeks ago from Arizona, and today was their first day out from quarantine. They were headed to the chiropractor. So give you guys all her best, and she complimented the school on how well they're doing with this whole thing, and her comment was, you guys are killing it. So so even somebody that's got no kids in the system has noticed how well everybody's doing. So we really appreciate all our efforts up and down the line. So thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else have anything else?
We'd just like to send a thank you out for you guys reaching out with that email to me and Dan. You know, I've got contacted by, you know, multiple bus drivers, you know, our cleaning janitorial staff, you know, very, very grateful, you know, that we're getting everybody getting everybody through this. You know, they've all been awesome with, you know, anything we've asked of them, that they've, you know, jumped right to it. You know, we didn't necessarily know what the response would be to, you know, delivering the homework, doing that stuff. And it was instantly, I was getting feedback, you know, yep, we'll do anything. We'll do anything. If you need anything extra, let us know. You know, so everybody's been good, you know, appreciate, you know, the email from you guys too. So, I mean, just everybody is sitting happy and, you know, would love to be back to work. So.
Okay. Thanks, bud. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks. Anybody have anything else? Not, we're adjourned. Next meeting's May 20th. So that's all I got.
All right. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
See ya.